Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream. This time out of Game Week 5, we have that's an amazing start, then well done. We have under 2 hours until the deadline passes, and I'm going to get through all your questions as always. And my transfer's already been made. I discussed this in my team selection podcast, and there is still a lot more to dissect in terms of future transfer plans. Shifting Mohamed Salah to Erling Haaland in the coming weeks will be a priority, and that will be discussed going into Game Week 6 in particular, where the triple captaincy could be activated, where Man City host Burnley. Let's get straight into it. Drop a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Today could be a somewhat special day as we close in on 36,000 subscribers. We are just a few away from that milestone, and that would be a great way to wrap up the Game Week 5 deadline stream. And every single month, I'll be gifting 10 memberships, and a big shout out to the likes of Ahmed, Paredes, and also Napstars, who have gifted so many memberships over the last couple of months. It is greatly appreciated. And to all the super chatters, patrons, and channel members, your support drives the content's growth, and also for the channel to reach new goals across all social media platforms. Those links can be found in the description. I'd highly recommend you join our Discord server for the FPL updates, and the same goes for UCL Fantasy. Jaren says, hey Dylan, happy Game Week 5 Eve. Forget DEFCON, start 2 from Saliba, Bogle, and Richards. Yeah, so I would start Richards from these three for sure. Then it becomes very difficult because Saliba's not even a guaranteed starter against Man City. Mosquera's been brilliant for Arsenal in the last couple of matches. Bogle, decent fixture on paper. I still think Wolves will score, but it could be a very low scoring affair. I'm going to say Richards and Bogle. And let's just make sure that the chats show up on screen just so it's even easier for people to keep track of where we are. So I'm going to do that and make sure that it's all working. For some reason it just reset. So yeah, I'm going to have that working for you in a jiffy, as they say. So thank you, Jaren. Hopefully you got the answer to your question. I would start Richards and Bogle. Easy says, is there a possibility Liverpool-Everton could be postponed? No, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I haven't seen anything about that, to be honest. I woke up this morning, Soprano style, had breakfast. I haven't seen anything about that. I'll have a look on Twitter, but I'm not sure where you got that from. You as an owner of Sanchez, are you worried about Maresca's comments about Sanchez likely not starting every Premier League game? I mentioned this in my team selection podcast, but ultimately, even Cucurella was benched against Brentford last weekend, which was a big shock to us all. I didn't expect Sanchez to get a start in every Premier League game. He didn't last season, but he should still get 30-plus starts, and ultimately, I'm not going to have Robert Sanchez all season. By the time I wildcard, especially in the second half of the campaign, I could have a different goalkeeper, but for the time being, Sanchez should be safe, and he is the first-choice goalkeeper. He did mention every single competition, and he said that Jorgensen will get starts in those competitions, but yeah, ultimately, I'm not too concerned about Maresca's comments. Gakpo or Mbumo for Sarr, says James123. I prefer Gakpo this week, but if we're being honest, long-term Gakpo's minutes will be less secure from now on. The same goes for Ekitike. So Liverpool have a bit of variation in how they can form their attack, but it's still going to be Gakpo for me. Best Arsenal attacker, Gyökeres for me, overall. At 9 million, he's the talisman up front. He'll get the bulk of the chances. And in the midfield, I think the goals will be shared until Saka returns. He's the most consistent when it comes to output. But yeah, whilst he could be available in the next couple of weeks, I think he'll be eased back into things with Madueke playing relatively well. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, currently got Murillo starting in my team, who is a doubt. If he's unavailable, should I put Dorgu or Estev as the first sub? Not a big fan of either, but I would lean towards Estev. Currently got Sanchez starting goalkeeper and Chris Wood up front. Or should I sell Murillo to Senesi or any 6.3 million defender, or just roll my transfer to have 2 next week, plus I plan to wildcard in 8? Yeah, I don't know your entire team, so it's difficult for me to say if you should roll and then have 2 free transfers next week, but yeah, it's a difficult one, to be fair. I'd probably roll in this situation, only just. And who should I captain? I do provide a top 10 captaincy list in essentially every single team selection podcast. Sometimes I'll do it in my best wildcard team, but nothing's really changed from my sort of ranking. I think Semenyo's the best of the lot in terms of form. And Newcastle could also be a bit jaded based on their Champions League game on Thursday against one of the best teams in Europe. So, yeah, Semenyo is third in my Captaincy list. I think Erling Haaland is as low as sixth, but trust me, he will not be in Game Week 6. Watkins is just about in my top 10, but that's because of the quality of player and also the fixture on paper. But Aston Villa have been poor this season. Gakpo is a bit of an interesting one because I had him originally in 7th. I think it's between 4th and 7th, and to be honest, a lot of these players are very close. Salah is the clear stand-up for me, despite the sort of Gandhi curse in the early kickoff. Thank you, Anish, for the super chat. It's always appreciated, mate. Hey, Dylan, do you think Igor Jesus may get some minutes? Yes, he will get some minutes off the bench, and he definitely warrants it after a brace against Swansea City the other night, but he's not going to start over Chris Wood, in my opinion. I really hope that's not the case anyway, but I think Chris Wood will start in the next 2 matches, and I'll be looking to sell him by Game Week 7 or 8. Ideally, it'd be to Gyökeres, but I'm also trying to get Erling Haaland for Ollie Watkins. So, yeah, I've got a few different plans there. But with Chris Wood, I've been very bullish on this from the last couple of weeks. I would keep him for Game Weeks 5 and 6, and then reassess the situation going into Newcastle away. But, yeah, I think Chris Wood will get 60, 70 minutes, and Igor Jesus will come off the bench as a substitute. So, top 3 cams this week. I've got Salah at top spot. I put Chris Wood in second, assuming he gets those minutes I just discussed. And in third, I've got Semenyo. I'll show you the graphics later on in the stream. Always good to see you, Lager, and I appreciate the emojis you put, the YouTube ones anyway. Bench one of Mbumo, Rodgers, and Kudus. Yeah, very difficult one. All of them have underperformed to a certain extent. Maybe Kudus just hasn't really had the numbers to facilitate big returns. To be fair, Rodgers has been terrible so far this season, but out of those 3, I'd be tempted to bench Kudus, which might sound a bit crazy. And I've gone for a 2-2 in the Brighton-Tottenham game, so you may want to reconsider that one, but yeah, that's a very close one. Hey, Dylan, should I play Van der Ven or Senesi this week? I'd play Senesi. I think both of them will concede, and it's more likely that Senesi will get DEFCON. That's pretty much how I've gone about it. And in my scoreline predictions, I've gone for 2-2 in the Tottenham game, albeit I still think they can get a victory at the Amex. And I've gone for a 1-1 draw in the Bournemouth match, and I've even considered a 1-0 win for the Cherries. So I'm more confident in the Bournemouth clean sheet, and on top of that, Senesi's better for defensive contributions, so I'd lean towards him naturally. So for my family team, should I just start one of Milenkovic, Esteve for Dewsbury Hall, or should I sell Sarr to Semenyo and bench Dewsbury Hall, or just roll the transfer? That's a lot of different scenarios as well. Starting Milenkovic is fine in my opinion, and if you favour Burnley in that matchup, then you can always go for Esteve. My favourite move overall, though, is selling Sarr to Semenyo, who is one of my favourite captaincy options this week, and long-term, he's a great midfielder. Hey bro, generally considering benching Wirtz for Chris Richards, the 4-point family and defender, would you give Wirtz his final chance in the early kickoff? I would give him the final chance. He is still one of the most highly rated attacking midfielders in world football. He played better in the Champions League midweek against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, I think Florian Wirtz is worth starting over Chris Richards. The ceiling will certainly be higher with the German. I understand why you're considering it, because Wirtz has been poor so far this season, but I would start him against Everton, and I've said this for a while now. I think he's going to score his first goal, in the next week. It just doesn't happen. It keeps on, we're waiting and waiting. 007 is on the horizon. I think he'll break that sort of goal contribution drought before we reach 007 in the Premier League. Start 2 of Ndiaye, Senesi and Gabriel against City. I feel Senesi and Ndiaye might get DEFCON, and Ndiaye might get a goal, but Liverpool defence is good. Yeah, but Liverpool's defence is a bit shakier than Arsenal's in my opinion. In the Premier League, though, Liverpool have kept a lot of clean sheets in the last couple of matches. And ultimately, if you're ranking the best defences, Liverpool would still be second or third in the entire division. I just think Ndiaye's ceiling is higher than Gabriel. Ndiaye could still score and get a bonus point in a loss against Liverpool, whilst Gabriel, you're likely seeing a goal conceded in that game. I'm not even sure why I'm having FPL dreams, but I did have one. And of course, you can see Gabriel third on my bench. That Gabriel got an assist and he was on 8 points at halftime or something. I don't know what I was even thinking in that dream, but yeah, will I listen to it? Maybe, maybe not. He's currently third on my bench, but as things stand, I think Senesi and Ndiaye are better FPL options for Game Week 5. Hey Dylan, who to start between Dubravka and Kelleher, also between Van der Ven and Agbadou? Well, Agbadou can get DEFCON, He is not in my predicted lineup at the moment. No, sorry, he is. It's Totti Gomez that I've dropped out of it, but I've got some slight concerns about that defensive line. We could see Krejci being shifted from the midfield to his more natural position as a defender. Mosquera played relatively well against Newcastle, so Agbadou isn't even nailed on to start, but if he does, he's got DEFCON potential, good fixture on paper, and the clean sheet is certainly a possibility. So I'd actually lean towards Agbadou, actually, but it's a bit of a risk. Dubravka or Kelleher? I'm going to say Dubravka. Should I sell Ekitike for Gyökeres? Not yet. I know Gyökeres scored a hat-trick against City last season, and it would be great if he did it again. But I think Ekitike will start in the early kickoff, get 60, 70 minutes depending on game state, and he could be one of the only goal scorers in a low-scoring Merseyside derby. That's the way I look at it. I've gone for 2-0 Liverpool in my scoreline prediction. I think Ekitike could be one of those goal scorers. Bench 1 of Tosin, Senesi, Van de Ven, Gay, and Anderson. Another difficult question, and Van de Ven is in a lot of these. I'd be tempted to bench Tosin Adarabioyo despite Man United struggles. We've also got a few more super chats, which I'm going to go through. So thank you, Anish, once again. Hey, Dylan, Raya, Dubravka, Virgil van Dijk, Chalobah, Senesi, Lacroix, Goodmanson, Salah, Eze, Gakpo, Semenyo, Kudus, Igor Jesus, Joao Pedro, and Mateta. 1 free transfer, 1.5 million in the bank. Can I bench boost? It's a good squad overall, but despite Igor Jesus' heroics in midweek, I don't think he's going to start. I think he'll get minutes off the bench, actually, and that could be enough for him to get a return against Burnley. But yeah, is it enough for a bench boost? I'd say so. It's a pretty decent squad overall. Fixtures are decent for the most part. It's an awkward game week, though. If you look at it when you're trying to free hit or triple captain, this is not a week that stands out in particular. But in your situation, and this won't be the case for many people, you've got a squad that is bench boostable this week. Now, I'm not sure exactly how that would look next week or in a couple of weeks' time, but that's something to consider. For your question, I'd say yes, you can bench boost for sure and get 10, 15 points, maybe even more than that, to be fair. But yeah, some of the fixtures are a bit mixed bag. Igor Jesus probably won't start, but it's still a very good 50-man squad overall. I don't think you need to make a transfer this week necessarily, and having 2 available moves in Game Week 6 could be very useful in moving Salah on to get Erling Haaland, which will be a big push in the coming week. Palmer captain over Salah? Not for me. Palmer is 5th in my captaincy ranking. I think Salah's the best one this week. And he also played incredibly well against Atletico on Wednesday night. So I think Salah is the go-to captain in Game Week 5. That will change, though, when Haaland faces Burnley at home in Game Week 6. Yeah, we have the same attackers and midfielders. Hopefully just from pure coincidence. I always tell people, and I'm not saying you're doing this, to always follow your own path. Don't copy someone else's strategy. And as you can see, my start to the season is quite poor, actually. I've normally done much better at this stage this season, so there's no need to limit yourself to what someone else is doing. I also say this for UCL Fantasy as well. Hey, Dylan, is your bench boost active or what? No, I will not be activating the bench boost. I've got Reinders and Gabriel facing each other. Some slight concerns about who to start, but it's mainly because the fixtures are quite poor for a lot of my players, like in Dye facing Liverpool away. I would not even consider bench boost in my situation this week. No chance. It's more likely for Game Week 6, but to be honest with you, I'd rather triple captain Haaland if I'd buy him in. Very confused if I should start Pedro Porro or Gyökeres today. Was that Joao Pedro? If it's Joao Pedro, I'd lean towards him over Gyökeres. Ideally, I'd start both of them. I think they both have the potential to score this week. Hi Dylan, 280 points total. Do I captain Haaland, Palmer or Semenyo? My favourite is Semenyo. I'll show you the captaincy list soon. And shall I bench Williams or Van de Ven? I'd bench Van de Ven, which is an unpopular opinion, it seems. A lot of people are very bullish on Van de Ven, and rightfully so. Spurs are looking decent defensively, but Brighton usually score against Tottenham Hotspur, and I think there'll be goals in that game. Play Senesi or Van de Ven? I'd play Senesi, for the reasons described earlier. Thank you, Dylan bro. Always appreciate your advice. We'll give Verts his chance. Yeah, we'll see how that ages, maybe in a couple of hours' time for the reaction stream, which hopefully is tonight. You might be cussing me and saying, why did I listen to this absolute twat? But hopefully that's not the case, even though I would like Liverpool to drop points. But yeah, let's forget about that. Hey, Dylan, would you rather play Esteve or Porro? Pedro Porro. In this case, it's a bit different because I expect Burnley to concede. And also with Porro, he's got the highest ceiling, even though he hasn't really shown it so far this season. Can I put Xavi Simons or Pedro as captain today? I've got a slight concern about Xavi Simons starting. He is in my predicted lineup, which I showed you in my video yesterday, and I'll go through them one more time today for a few modifications. But yeah, I'd rather go for Joao Pedro. His record against United is brilliant during his time at Watford and over the years for Brighton. So I'd go for Joao Pedro personally. If you've got a feeling about Xavi Simons, back your gut. And if you're a Tottenham fan, of course, that could be double ecstasy or double pain. But we'll see how it goes in the end. Will Semenyo be on penalties? Whilst Cliver isn't on the pitch, the answer is yes. We saw that, of course, against Brighton in the previous game week. But once Cliver's on the pitch, I think Semenyo is second in command when it comes to penalties. Dylan is a good strategy to start 5 defenders this game week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring week. Yeah, and a lot of my predictions, I've gone for like 1-1, 1-0, so I kind of understand your perspective, but the problem is anticipating those clean sheets. It might come in the matches we least expect, like Arsenal, Man City, or something like that, so it's a difficult one to say. I think this week is more of a 4 at the back formation, maybe, and that's why I'm considering starting Gabriel or Renildo Mandava, and that could be for Ndai or Ezri Konsa. I'll put a poll out later on to see what people think. But yeah, it's a good question. I'd probably say 4 at the back this week. I still think a lot of the points will be found in the midfield and forward line. Starting order out of Caicedo, Isak, Grealish, Tarkowski. If you have Isak, I'd still be tempted to start because off the bench he could make the difference in the Merseyside derby. Tarkowski can get defensive contribution points. I think he will against Liverpool and still give you 2 or 3 points minimum. I'd definitely start Caicedo though, because he's kind of like a guarantee of 4 points or above at this moment in time. And against Man United, I think he's going to recover the ball very often and do it enough to get defensive contribution points. So I'd start Caicedo and Isak, and I'd prioritize Tarkowski over Grealish, which might sound crazy. And it's worth saying that despite saying that Grealish is a skip going into Aston Villa, he played very well that game and was unlucky not to get a goal contribution. Captain Joao Pedro or Semenyo over Salah this game week. I'm in the Salah camp right now. I'm not going to change, but if I were to go a bit different, it's probably Semenyo. He's 3rd in my list, and Joao Pedro is 5th. I'm getting a lot of captaincy questions, so what I'm going to do is go to some different graphics. I think it's probably best to start with that at this moment in time, as well as this sort of section with my scoreline predictions, and this could inform you of why I feel a certain way about my rankings. So I've gone for Liverpool 2, Everton 0, and I'll go back to these once the deadline closes in a couple of hours' time. Brighton 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Burnley 1, Nottingham Forest 2, the same scoreline for West Ham Crystal Palace, with Crystal Palace getting the victory. Wolves 1, Leeds 0, Manchester United 1, Chelsea 1, Fulham 3, Brentford 2, Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 1, Sunderland 0, Aston Villa 1, and then Arsenal 2, Man City 1. Now, last week I got it wrong with the sort of highlighted player and looking at the heat maps and which player could really excel, and that was with Jean-Philippe Mateta facing Sunderland. Have I learnt my lesson? Maybe not, because I'm just looking at it as West Ham are terrible. Let's go for Mateta, and you can see the blue circles which indicate the chances conceded by West Ham this season, and then you can see the heat map which is Jean-Philippe Mateta in this Premier League campaign. I think he's going to do well in this fixture, and that's why he ranks quite highly in my Captaincy list as well. With the clean sheet odds, they're very low this week. So for that question that asked about should we play 5 at the back, I get it. It could be a low-scoring week in general, but it could be quite frustrating with a lot of 1-1s and not many clean sheets flying around, to be honest. And that is reflected by these probabilities, which are taken by the website fantasyfootballpundit.com. Liverpool are top with a 42% chance against Everton at home. Aston Villa are second with 37%. Arsenal are third despite facing Manchester City. Then you've got Fulham, Forest, and Wolves in the top 6. In last place is Everton with a 13% chance against Liverpool away. And because I'm getting so many questions, I have to cover this. My top 10 captaincy options, only one change, and that's basically swapping Gakpo and Ekitike, and it all depends on who gets more minutes in that match, and Isak will surely come on for one of them at least. But Salah is top, Chris Wood is second, and Semenyo makes up the podium. Gakpo is 4th, but that could easily be Ekitike, Palmer, or Haaland. You could honestly say from 2nd to 10th, it's interchangeable. It really is. Maybe Watkins less so because of his form, and Aston Villa haven't scored enough goals this season, but I think it's very close with the captaincy this week, apart from Salah, who is the clear standout. I would go for Ekitike in 7th, Joao Pedro 8th, Mateta is 9th, and Ollie Watkins is just about in the top 10. Another player I considered was Victor Gyökeres, considering his hat-trick against Man City last season, and his record at the Emirates has been brilliant so far with 3 goals in 2 Premier League matches. So we'll go back to that, of course. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions about the captaincy, but yeah, for those that are tuning in, this is how I would prioritize the Game Week 5 captaincy list this week. Let's now go to the FDR. And there are some surprising names near the top of the list, with Wolves, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur, and Manchester City. If we look near the bottom, there's Brentford, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Fulham, and Everton. Even Liverpool are in the bottom 6. With predicted points, Salah is top with 7.6, and surprisingly, Ollie Watkins is second. The fixture is still very appealing on paper, and Aston Villa have a brilliant record at the Stadium of Light and against Sunderland in general. Semenyo is third, so I agree with Fantasy Football Hub when it comes to that. Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, Van Dijk, Ekitike, Cunha, who is now back in the United squad, Gakpo, Joao Pedro. That is the top 10 according to predicted points. We'll see how that goes. With price changes, expect the likes of Xavi Simons, Lucas Paqueta, Jurrien Timber, Salah, and Waldemada to go up in price. I'm surprised about Salah, to be fair, and very soon we could see him drop in price with the shift towards Erling Haaland in Game Week 6. In terms of price falls, there's Harry Wilson, De Kuiper, who is an injury doubt, but it looks like he has escaped serious injury, as covered yesterday in my Predicted Lineups podcast. Fulkrug, Ismail Assar, Mark Guiu, so he will go down to 4.3 million potentially tonight. Murillo, Cherki, Odeber, Norgard, Gittins. Not all of these will happen, by the way. I always say this. Ekitike is another potential price faller. Nico Williams, Martinelli, despite his heroics in midweek for Arsenal. So what I'm going to do is put this link in the live chat and feel free to have a look yourself. This is the most reliable website when it comes to price changes, livefpl.net. You can also use it to track your progress during a game week to see what rank you're at. If you're winning your mini league or a head-to-head battle, it's a very good website. And just like fpl.team, you can also visualize future game weeks with these tools. So I'd highly recommend it. Let's also compare the stats of 2 of the best assets in FPL this season and over the last couple of years. I think Salah is the standout captain this week, but in future match days, Erling Haaland will be the go-to captain, especially in 6 against Burnley at home, where I'll likely triple captain him if I make that sort of move. It would require a -4 hit in my situation, and I do something like Salah to Bruno Fernandes. I was thinking of trying to find a way to get Palmer as well, but that would also require selling Borro to a 4.5 million defender pretty much, and that's something I just can't really afford. It's a shame Senesi, of course, is no longer at that price point. Otherwise, I'd even consider a -8 hit and doing those sorts of transfers. But Haaland is really excelling with the goal scoring. 5 goals in 4 Premier League matches. That's his worst ever start to a Premier League season. That is absolutely incredible. The XG is 5.68, 18 shots inside the box, 19 overall, and 8 on target, while Salah pales in comparison, but he was incredible in the Champions League. If you base it off the last performance, Salah was more impressive than Haaland in midweek, but in the Prem, there is one clear winner so far in Erling Haaland, who always starts the season very strongly. Let's see if he continues this momentum against Arsenal away, and then Burnley at home and Brentford away. 9 big chances for the Norwegian robot, only 1 for Salah, who also has relied on some last-minute juju to get some goal contributions. That 4th goal against Bournemouth, the assist for Newcastle, or against Newcastle, I should say, and then that late penalty against Burnley in the 95th minute. So I'm sure I'm going to get a few questions about the best wildcard squad. It was covered in that video, but this was essentially one of the drafts I talked about. And long-term, I think Haaland is the one over Salah, which is why I've gone for this sort of structure, even though you'd rather captain the Egyptian this week, in my opinion. And in terms of my sort of dilemmas I'm going to have, well, Chris Wood is going to start this week. You can see my starting 11 right now, and ultimately I'm not going to focus too much on this, but if we look at the expected points, it's actually quite surprising. Somehow, Gabriel has a higher expected points figure than Chris Wood, which is really strange and bizarre to say the least. Obviously, I bought Semenyo for Ismail Assar last weekend. I did a very early transfer, which I don't recommend, so I was able to get Semenyo very early and also gain a bit of team value in the process. But I think information is more important than team value. I was just so bullish on buying Semenyo, and one of the reasons why I bought Lacroix in the first place was to give me the funds to buy the Ghanaian midfielder in this team. So yeah, Semenyo in, 4 Rangers. If you look at what this website recommends in terms of starting, they would say Gabriel over Konsa. Actually, they recommend benching Pedro Porro, which is very surprising, actually. Okay, not much difference between Reinildo Mandava and Konsa. they also recommend Dubravka over Sanchez. So that is what they suggest as the optimal Game Week 5 setup. And then for Game Week 6, I could do something like this. Go from Salah to, let's say, Bruno Fernandes as one example, and then Watkins to Erling Haaland. I could still have 0.2 million in the bank. In an ideal world, this would be Palmer instead of Bruno Fernandes, and I'd be very happy. But that isn't the case. I'll need to go back to the drawing board. In order to get Cole Palmer, I'd have to do something like this and take a -8 hit in the process. I could also triple captain Erling Haaland in this game week. And then I'd go from Pedro Porro to a 4.3 million defender now. So yeah, I've got less margin for error now. And I'm just not a big fan of those 4.3 defenders, to be quite honest with you. So that's something else I have to consider. Selling Gabriel might be the best way to get Palmer and Haaland. I don't want to get rid of an Arsenal defender, though, even against Newcastle away. And long term, I want that Arsenal coverage defensively. So that's where my situation lies. Let me know in the live chat what you think of getting Senesi for Gabriel, Palmer for Salah, and then Haaland to replace Ollie Watkins. It looks really good on paper, but I'm just not a big fan of selling Gabriel as part of a -8 hit. And of course, Salah could still do well against Crystal Palace away. So with FPL Challenge, I'll go back to this after the deadline, but any Liverpool or Everton player will score double the number of points. I've got Alisson, Van Dijk and Salah as a result, and the Egyptian is my captain. Semenyo, Chris Wood and Mateta complete my FPL Challenge team. I did fairly well last week because I captained Erling Haaland, who got 52 points alone. The rest, of course, was scored by all the other players, so it was a real carry job by the Norwegian robot, as usual. So I'll go back to this later on, like I said. Let's focus on FPL. My team is relatively locked in my opinion. The only real changes would be in my starting 11. I don't see myself changing the captaincy, and making another transfer is highly unlikely at this stage. It's all subject to information we get over the next hour, but assuming that everyone is fit and available and we get no information, this will be my starting 11. Sanchez in goal, Konsa, Pedro Porro, Lacroix, Salah, Gakpo, Semenyo, Ndiaye, Chris Wood, Watkins, and Joao Pedro. And my bench isn't ideal this week. I think any of them can return, but it's still a quite weak-looking bench on paper in terms of as a combination with Reinders and Gabriel facing each other, and picking one of them to start could be a difficult task in terms of getting the right one, and ultimately one of them could score points, but it could be the wrong one in my starting 11 in the process. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, also share, all that good stuff. We are closing in on 36,000 subscribers, and a massive shout out to the patrons and members and the super chatters. We are around 35 subscribers away from the next goal. Let's hit that by the end of today's stream, and there could be a reaction stream tonight to celebrate even further. So let's get straight into the questions and whiz through these since there are a lot coming in. Dylan, need a forward under 7.5 million. Any suggestions? I still like Ivanoson, but my problem with him is if you've got Semenyo and Senesi, tripling up on Bournemouth does seem a bit excessive. I think 2 is the sweet spot, but he would still be one of the standouts at that price tag. Then I'd look at Waldemada, simply because Visser is unavailable until the next international break. And whilst we saw Gordon start in the Champions League up front, I still think Waldemada will start most Premier League games at this point in time. Greetings, Pratik. Always good to see you. Best defender for this week. I'm not entirely convinced about this one. Probably Van Dijk, but I really like Lacroix and these Crystal Palace defenders against West Ham. I think they could score from a set piece. A clean sheet is possible. I've gone for 2-1, but yeah, I'd say Van Dijk and then maybe Lacroix. If Watkins keep blanking this game week, you will sell and get the bid forever. I'm not going to say forever because there could be a time where Watkins looks incredible and Villa have great fixtures and they're clicking and it looks like the right time to buy him. But a few years ago, Ollie Watkins started the season quite poorly in terms of goal scoring. He didn't get any single goal in the first 5 game weeks, only 1 or 2 assists or something like that. I sold him for Alvarez, and then Watkins got a return against Chelsea, maximum bonus points. I think Chelsea lost that game. And then he scored a massive haul against Brighton. So basically when I sold him, he absolutely burned me. Maybe that played a part in why I've been so, patient with him. But he's ultimately not been good enough. I'm still looking to sell him to Erling Haaland in Game Week 6, even if he scores against Sunderland this weekend. But yeah, it's not really an ideal situation. So yeah, UCL Fantasy, a bit underwhelming, to be honest. I mean, it's not a low-scoring match day, but if I'm kind of comparing it to last season where I got 120 points, my captain got 40 points alone, it has been a very underwhelming start, but there were a few 50-50 calls that went the other way, and that's one of the worst feelings in UCL Fantasy or FPL. When you're so close to getting someone, you don't get that player, you go the other way and there's a massive swing of 10, 20 points against you with just one pick. So yeah, a bit frustrating. I think that's the way I feel about match day 1, but it's still very early days. I think with my chip strategy, I can bounce back immediately, and I've also got a solid platform for the rest of the competition anyway. Tarek says, I have Matoma and Van de Ven. What should I do? I'd prioritize Matoma personally. I'm going for a 2-2 draw in my prediction, but you might feel differently. Hermoso says, good morning, Dylan. I have Salah, but I want to go for a defensive captain this week. It's between Kudus or Mbumo. Oh, is that differential captain? I'm not particularly convinced. I mean, Kudus scored 4 Premier League goals last season, hasn't scored a single goal in this new campaign, and he doesn't look like scoring. Mbumo against Chelsea, I'm not really feeling it, to be honest. Could these players score or get a good return this week? Absolutely, but I wouldn't be able to guarantee it. So it's up to you if you want to go a bit different, but I'd rather go for Semenyo, someone more consistent and proven this season, and Salah for me is the best captain. Should I start Brennan Johnson, Reinders or Van de Ven? I'm not convinced about Johnson starting, but he could make an impact off the bench, and I think the next 3 fixtures suit him from an FPL perspective, where he could get a few goals in the process against Brighton, Wolves and Leeds. And it wouldn't surprise me if he started over Xavi Simons this weekend. They could also coexist together. Xavi Simons is naturally a central player, but for Tottenham Hotspur so far, he is playing on the left. I'd take a punt on Brennan Johnson, but his minutes will be far less secure than Van de Ven and Reinders. Munoz or Borro? For this week, it'd be Munoz. Rob says, looking to get Haaland in next week, selling Salah and Mateta. Need a replacement for Salah, budget 7.8 million. Well, Semenyo is the clear standout. If you don't have Semenyo, I think that's the simplest way to go about it. Assuming you've got him, my other suggestion might even be Moises Caicedo. I talked about this in my team selection, about several different avenues I could go to make the same sort of moves that you're doing, but in my case, I'm selling Ollie Watkins instead. Xavi Simons is a consideration. In my case, Bruno Fernandes, because I've got more budget, but yeah, I'd probably say Semenyo is the undisputed best option. Afterwards, I'd consider Moises Caicedo for the ball recoveries or defensive actions there. I have the deadly 4 this week. Chris Wood, Rodgers, Watkins and Wirtz. Would you just wildcard or give them one more week? I'd give them one more week, for sure. And it's a difficult one because even Rodgers and Watkins, they've got Burnley at home in the next 3. Their fixtures still look good up until Game Week 9. So it's an awkward situation, but I'd certainly give them this week because it's a bit of a difficult one to predict this match day. A lot of tough games to call. Maybe not many clean sheets to really predict, and not many high-scoring affairs either. It's a very awkward game week to wildcard, free hit, and all this stuff. Alan Madrid puts his team. Rate my squad. I'd say a 7. The Rodgers captain puts it down for me a little bit. It could even be an 8, to be fair, with the right captain. I think Semenyo is my favourite one from what you have. But yeah, it's a good team overall for Game Week 5. Long term, there would be some concerns, and you could definitely shift some things about. But yeah, I wouldn't captain Rodgers personally. It's just my opinion. If you're bullish about him, back your gut. But I'm just not really feeling it with Villa assets to captain. I have Haaland. Is it okay to swap him for Watkins and remove Caicedo from the midfield to bring in Salah? You're looking to sell Haaland? I just don't think that makes any sense. For Game Week 5, like I said multiple times, I think Salah's the best captaincy option, but what are you going to do for Game Week 6 then? Are you going to wildcard and get Haaland back in? Are you just going to reverse the transfers because he's facing Burnley at home where a lot of people will triple captain him? I think Haaland is the better option than Salah long term from this point. If I'm wildcarding, I talked about this in that video, I would go for Erling Haaland right now, even though this week you might take a little bit of a hit and Salah owners will have the better of it, but I just don't think that's worth it in the long term. Vignesh says, hi, should I bench boost? Dubravka, Reinders, Diouf, Esteve on the bench. It's not a bad bench, but double Burnley defence against Forest, I think they'll concede. Reinders away to Arsenal and Diouf, I'm going to say no personally. Keeping in mind that Munoz and Wood are in my starting 11. Yeah, I think I'd save the bench boost for another rainy day. Or technically sunny day, if you look at it from a different perspective. Pritpal says, hi Dylan, I want to activate the bench boost. A lot of bench boosts in the live chat, which is quite surprising. Need to replace Mark Guiu. I have 6.7 million. Which forward should I go for? Well, for Game Week 5, I like Mateta. The same goes for Chris Wood, but long term, you could argue there are better options elsewhere. Isak and Ekitike is awkward right now. I wouldn't buy them in. For those that have Ekitike, of course, I'd hold, but buying him in right now seems a little bit like the wrong time to do so. So I'm going to say one of Mateta or Chris Wood, actually, if you want an immediate result and then use the bench boost in Game Week 5. Renan Costa says Gakpo and Bruno Fernandes to Semenyo and Palmer in for Game Week 5. I like the players you've got, but I also like the players you're bringing in. And as a duo, I do prefer Semenyo and Palmer at this moment in time. So, difficult one, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to say yes, just about, but it's a really close call, and both duos will score plenty of points over the coming weeks anyway, so there might not be too much of a difference. You might even have bigger priorities elsewhere in your 50-man squad, but yeah, Semenyo and Palmer looks really enticing. Is it worth it, Van der Ven to Mitchell or Senesi? I wouldn't sell Van der Ven, especially given his current form and Spurs' defence. I prefer Senesi long-term in terms of DEFCON, and I also think Bournemouth have looked very solid this season, but I don't think it's worth selling Van der Ven this week, no. Gabriel last place. I think he scored last time versus City. In the 5-1, he didn't score. He blanked, but in the game before that, he scored at the Etihad in a 2-2 draw. I did have a dream, like I said earlier. I don't know why I'm having this sort of dream of Gabriel getting a return against Man City. He was on 8 points minimum, and it might have been half-time or something. But yeah, I've got a few concerns about the order of my bench and maybe who starts ever so slightly. I think Konsa is the biggest doubt in my 11. There's also a slight concern about Ndai this week, and maybe I'll just go all in on Liverpool. But yeah, Gabriel last on my bench is a bit wild. I get that. I did the same against Liverpool. It almost looked like a disaster because Arsenal were on the cusp of a clean sheet. Then it took a moment of magic by Szoboszlai to change that. But yeah, Arsenal's defence looks incredible. Only 1 goal conceded this season, and it was from a moment of magic, basically. Gay, Van der Ven, or Senesi? This week, I'd lean towards Gay. Is it impossible to have Salah and Haaland in the same team? No, it's not impossible. The problem is making a lot of sacrifices in other positions to make this sort of structure viable. Start 3 out of Van der Ven, Elliott, Anderson, Milenkovic, and Dijk Kudus. I got Van Dijk and Lacroix nailed. Yeah, I agree with that. 2 of my favourite defenders this week. I would start Kudus, Milenkovic, and probably Ndai, actually. With Elliot Anderson, he's got a good fixture. The chance of him scoring will be higher than it would be against Arsenal away, but in terms of DEFCON, it's less likely he'll get that against Burnley. But he has been the nearly man when it comes to DEFCON on multiple occasions. Yeah, Murillo's an interesting one. He's not in my predicted lineup now. He was in yesterday's video, but based on Ange Postecoglou's update, yeah, I think Morata could start at centre-back, and we'll see Zinchenko on the left, Nico Williams on the right, and Milenkovic completing that defensive line. That's not set in stone. There is still a chance he plays, but yeah, he hasn't trained that much, and it's going to be a late decision. That puts me off a lot. I think it's probably worth starting him if you've got Murillo, and if you've got the squad depth necessary, that could cover for the Brazilian centre-back. I don't think he'll be on the bench and come on for a one-pointer, and you certainly wouldn't hope so as a Murillo owner. I sold him last week and got a bit of fortune there. He's certainly got the DEFCON potential and great fixtures over the next 2. Should I bench Timber this game week? It depends on your alternatives, but I'd be quite open to benching Arsenal defenders against Man City. I think both teams will score, but it should be quite low scoring in general, not like the 5-1 we saw back in January. Another top transfer curse player, this time is Semenyo. I still like him long term, so I'm not really too concerned if he blanks or not. Quinn says sell Wirtz for Semenyo or give Wirtz his last chance and roll the transfer to get Semenyo later. Difficult one. I think Semenyo is the clear standout, and in my Captaincy list, he's also ranked in my top 3. Wirtz is nowhere near it right now, but a bit like Ollie Watkins and all these players, once people sell them in droves, they're going to score eventually. They're going to return. That's FPL heritage. It's how football works as well, and it's completely unpredictable, but I think Semenyo is the right one. I think he's just the right one. Then you can focus on other transfers next week, like buying Haaland, for example, so it could be a similar sort of route to what I'm doing in the next couple of weeks. I'd probably just buy Semenyo at this moment in time. John Paul says, hey Dylan, Palmer and Darlow in for Sanchez and Ndai for a -4. I wouldn't be buying a goalkeeper as part of a -4 here. I know you're buying Palmer as a result, but my answer would be no, actually. 3 game weeks in a row. Yep, thank you very much. Captain Watkins, good luck. I really hope it goes well for you. I'm going to keep Watkins, so a return from him would be much appreciated and also well overdue. His underlying stats aren't terrible, and that's why I've been quite bullish on keeping him for the last couple of weeks as well, as opposed to Rodgers, and in a lot of cases I've said to sell Morgan Rogers instead. But yeah, they have to start clicking sooner or later. They're not going to be in a relegation battle, and Unai Emery is a quality manager. He just hasn't gotten things right so far this season. Captain Rogers or Ndoye, not a big fan of either. Slight preference for Rogers, and that's because I know the quality of player as well, and I think Villa could bounce back against Sunderland, but my prediction's 1-0. Dylan, sell Borro, not Gabriel, in my opinion. No, I agree with you. The problem is the budget. If I had enough money to do Borro to Senesi, I'd probably take the -8 hit next week. And it's not ideal for Gameweek 6, specifically selling Salah and Borro for a -8, but to get Palmer and Haaland at the same time, that would be incredible. And also a DEFCON reliable defender like Senesi, but I just can't do that. I'm limited to 4.3 million in the bank if I were to sell Borro instead. No, thankfully I haven't wildcarded yet. I might do soon in UCL Fantasy, which I'll talk about in the next couple of Matchday 2 videos, but for FPL, I think Gameweek 8 is a possibility, but I'm quite open-minded when it comes to the timing of my wildcard. It also depends on suspensions, injuries, and other factors. Sell Richarlison and Minter -4 for Wood and Kudus. I'm not sure about taking a -4 hit for that, to be quite honest with you. Richarlison isn't a certain starter, but Chris Wood is a short-term punt. Kudus doesn't look like scoring. I'm not saying that they can't do well this week. As a short-term punt and you're wildcarding soon, I'd say go for it, but long-term, I don't see that really working out. And you might find better alternatives like Semenyo in the midfield, or maybe up front you could find Gyökeres and people like that. Obviously, there's a big difference in price as well. Michael says, hi Dylan, who should I start between Reinders and Senesi? I'm going to say Senesi. Now, the ceiling of Reinders is far higher. If he scores, you can get bonus points and stuff like that. And I think Reinders will get a lot of blanks, but then give you these massive returns here and there, like he did back in Gameweek 1 against Wolves. Best one-week punts. Chris Wood would be one of them. Maybe Mateta, because he faces Liverpool next week, albeit his record against them is decent. I think Kevin could be a shout against Brentford. He could start, and even off the bench, we saw the impact against Leeds. He's not the best in terms of goals and assists, maybe, but his record, of course, in the Ukrainian League was very impressive. So yeah, I think Kevin would be a mega punt, and it might be worth it. Low ownership, good fixture on paper. Why is nobody captaining Mateta? Well, he's 9th in my Captaincy list. He arguably could have been even higher, but the reason is because Mateta has had 1 5-pointer this season, and he's blanked in every other game. And apart from that, he's scored in one Conference League qualifier against Fredrikstad. He scored against Liverpool in the Community Shield, but basically his record hasn't been too great this season, and his ceiling hasn't been that high. But West Ham, I hate to say it, but West Ham is basically the reason why I'd want to captain Mateta. I'm kind of with you on that one. Rank 500k, I'm rolling my 2 free transfers again to bring in Haaland, Semenyo, and Palmer in Gameweek 6. I like that. I still have all my chips without any mints. Oh, minus hits this season. Yeah, looking good right now. That's a great position to be in. Obviously, you might have other files to put out by Gameweek 6 or 7, but it's looking good at this moment in time. Yeah, guys, let's just do a coin flip for Sanchez Dubravka. I've got a coin here. I mean, I could actually do that myself. So what are we saying then? Heads is Sanchez, tails is Dubravka. This is an Arsenal coin, by the way. I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me give myself a bit of space. That was not a great coin flick. Let's do that again. What am I doing? Anyway, that's going to be tails. It says Dubravka. That was one of the worst coin flips of all time, but I don't really have too much space here. So yeah, there's the answer there. Latino dialects, enjoy. Sanchez or Dubravka? I'm starting Sanchez right now, but the coin, if I'm two-faced, says Dubravka, so... Gabriel over Ndoye, who will more likely get defensive contribution points? Gabriel, especially in a fixture like Man City. Ndoye is there for the goal scoring. I mean, he got DEFCON points in Gameweek 4, but that doesn't mean he's going to get it that often, actually. Thank you, LFC fan. Always good to see you. Poke me? I'll call you Pokemon. Says Captain Wood, Mateta, Watkins, Gakpo, Bruno, Kudus, or a defender. Whoa, chill. I'm going to say Chris Wood. He's second in my captaincy list. Semenyo is third. I think Watkins is 10th. Gakpo is just about 4th. That is certainly interchangeable. Kudus could do well this week. I'm kind of there with people. I understand why he's considered for the captaincy, but generally speaking, he's not going to score that many goals. He really isn't. Game Week 8 wildcard, get Arsenal and City players. What do you think? Yeah, that's why Game Week 8 is a possibility for me. I talked about this in my chip strategy guide, so check that out. It was posted just before the season started. You got Mikel Arteta on the thumbnail. Yeah, Game Week 8 wildcard was something I always was quite warm to, but it also depends how I kind of arrive, because by that stage I might have Erling Haaland, and I've also got 2 Arsenal players, and it doesn't seem like a big necessity. Game Week 13 is quite a popular wildcard time for a lot of people, but I also think, well, you've got 5 free transfers in Game Week 16 anyway because of AFCON. Could you not just wildcard a little bit earlier and then maximize your squad that way? So it all depends, really. Everyone's situation is different. Hola, Dylan. Iwobi for Kudus. Para mí no. Bueno, antes que yo diga eso, ¿vos quieres vender a Iwobi por Kudus? Es una posibilidad. Es que yo pienso que Fulham puede ganar 3-2 contra Brentford y eso sería un partido muy interesante. Es difícil. Creo que a largo plazo es mejor Kudus, pero como dije en inglés, no hace muchos goles. 4 en la temporada pasada con West Ham y en esta temporada hizo 0 goles. Y no parece que va a anotar 1, pero contra Brighton yo creo que va a ser otro partido goleador. 2-2 es mi predicción. Yo diría que sí, pero Kudus no es mi favorito. Prefiero a Semenyo, por ejemplo. Is it Game Week 15 when we get 5 free transfers? It's Game Week 16, yeah. It's all covered in my key changes to FPL video and my chip strategy guide. But yeah, it's Game Week 16. The kind of tip I would give to people is to take advantage of this. Use up all your free transfers going into Game Week 16, because it doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 transfers available. Everyone gets 5 free transfers. So in order to gain more transfers from the system, you want to use up as many as you can and then gain 4 transfers compared to what you would have had without this sort of new system in place. Thoughts on Isak? I don't think he's going to start. He'll probably get minutes off the bench. Ekitike should get the nod. Would it really surprise me if Isak started? Maybe not so much, because he could be subbed off early like he was against Atletico, but I think the more likely scenario is that Ekitike starts and Isak comes off the bench. Yeah, best time to free hit. That is team dependent, and there are a few game weeks I talked about in my chip strategy guide. It's probably worth going to those slides again because I have updated them a little bit. So let's go to this right now. And you can see these slides playing out. It also talks about AFCON transfers. As you can see, Game Week 16 is when everyone gets 5 free transfers. And these are the potential doubles and blanks later this season. That will be covered more so as we approach that stage in 2026. There's a breakdown of every single chip and some ideas of when to use them. I mean, I mentioned Salah, of course, in Game Week 4. That's a bit out of date now, and 9 points isn't particularly great. But yeah, Game Week 6 for the triple captain is a serious possibility for me on Erling Haaland facing Burnley at home. So once we get to the suggested Game Weeks to use every single chip, I will pause it and talk about it briefly. So for the first half of the season, I talked about something like this. Ignore the triple captain one. That could definitely be, well, I'm just going to say Game Week 6, to be honest. So wildcard Game Week 8 is a possibility. Free hit around Game Week 11, that's one potential game week. I've kind of done research, used fpl.team to visualize future game weeks, look at the fixtures, and that looked quite appealing. For the bench boost, Game Week 16 could actually be very underrated because everyone gets 5 free transfers, and by doing so, you can have a stacked 50-man squad and then go to that sort of thing. Or for those maybe that are wildcarding in 13, you could then bench boost in 14, for example, or around that time. Then with 5 free transfers in Game Week 16, you can take money off your bench and then chase some fixture swings and stuff like that. So those are some ideas of when to bench boost, free hit, and also wildcard. Hopefully that does pay off for you. But with a triple captaincy, I would essentially use it on Haaland or Salah whenever they face a newly promoted club, especially at home. And Erling Haaland faces Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland all at home in the first half of the season. For the second half of the campaign, my recommendation right now, and I think this will prove to be very popular, is to wildcard around Game Week 32. This could also be a little bit earlier than that. You bench boost in double Game Week 33. You use the free hit in blank Game Week 34 and triple captain in double Game Week 36. But there are alternative strategies, which I also show in my chip strategy guide. And this could also be talked about in an upcoming video, like an update chip strategy video, for example. So these are all the possible game weeks to use the triple captain: 6, 13, 15. For the wild card, I talked about Game Week 4 as a possibility. You can ignore that with a free hit as well. So Game Week 8 or 13 for the wild card. For the bench boost, there's 17, 18, 19 as well as alternative game weeks. I would prefer 16 though, or maybe just a little bit earlier, depending on when you wildcard. And the free hit in Game Week 6 is a possibility, but yeah, I think Game Week 11 looks a little bit more enticing at this moment in time. And I have to say this, it is team dependent as well. For some people, there might even be another game week I haven't highlighted here, which is the best way to go about it. And for the second half of the season, I think a lot of people will go for a very similar strategy. So that might be very difficult to break away from the template. It's going to be in the first half of the campaign where we see a lot of variety in our chip strategies. But triple captain in double game week 33 is a possibility, because if the bigger double game week is in 36, we could bench boost there instead, wildcard just before that in 35 to set it up, and still use the free hit in blank game week 34. But let's not forget, you can use that chip in a double game week to be more aggressive and chase the points and try to get the highest scores possible, of course, with that chip. So before I go back to my FPL team and answer more questions, what I want to do is show you the lineups, the updated version. So you've got pretty much everything here when it comes to analysis and also ideas for Game Week 5 and beyond. David Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Marino, Rice, Madueke, Eze, Gyökeres. That is my predicted Arsenal 11. If Odegaard is fit, he will start. There are some murmurings of Saka potentially being available. He could be in the squad, but I don't see him starting against Man City at home. And the numbers you see on the top right are basically the amount I've gotten correct. So out of 4 game weeks so far, so 44 is the maximum I can get. I've gotten 40 correct with the Gunners. So I'll whiz through these and highlight the changes from yesterday's video because it's all covered in that podcast. I think Harvey Elliott will start, and that could be a big boost for Villa. For Bournemouth, I don't think Diakite will start. He is not 100% fit, but he should be in the squad, and that is another boost there for the Cherries. In the case of Brentford, I'm keeping the same starting 11 as discussed yesterday. With Brighton as well, a few concerns with certain positions. De Kuiper is available, but I still think Kadioglu will get the nod, and he'll be the one marking Kudus this weekend. Vifa is also available, so he could start instead of Veltman. And in midfield, a few predicted lineups I've seen have James Milner alongside Ayari, but I'm going for Baleba at this moment in time, with Jorginho Rota and Welbeck as the two most offensive players, but there is also the possibility that they play Gruder as the attacking mid and Jorginho Rota up front. I think Gruder will be on the bench. In the case of Burnley, this is another difficult one to predict because they could change to a back 5 as they did against Liverpool, and if that's the case, we could see a change of personnel. Don't be surprised to see Florentino Luis start for the first time following his move from Benfica, and we could see Laurent play as a central defender alongside Ekdal and Esteve, and then you'll see Florentino Luis play alongside Colin in the midfield. There is also Bryn Larson and a few other options who could start over Chuana, but this is what I've gone for at this moment in time. With Chelsea, I think Garnacho will start. A lot of different newspapers and sources believe he will against his former club, and there's also the possibility of Estevao starting, but I'm going for this 11. Reece James has started a lot of games against United recently, but I'm going for Gusto at right back and Enzo Fernandez with Caicedo in the midfield. And with Crystal Palace, an unchanged side essentially, except for Wharton, so he will return. He is available as confirmed by Oliver Glasner yesterday. The same goes for Eddie Nketiah, who will be on the bench for the Eagles. And with Everton, based on David Moyes' comments yesterday, I'm going to go for Ghana at left back with Irig Bonham and Idrissa Gana Gueye in central midfield. If Mikalenko is available and ready to start, he will be the left back. Ghana will partner Idrissa Gana Gueye and Irig Bonham will drop to the bench. With Fulham, I'm going for this starting 11. I think Kevin could start. It's not a guarantee, so Harry Wilson could still be on the right. It will be on the left. Fulham have a clear bill of health, and the only injury concern was Alex Iwobi. He had a knock, but he trained, so it's all good now, and everything is looking very decent for Fulham. With Leeds United, I think they'll go for Aronson as the right winger. So Nonto is a serious injury doubt at this moment in time. I believe he's orange flagged. So this would be my starting 11 for Leeds United facing Wolves away. That will be a crucial game. With Liverpool, another team I've done fairly well in with the predictions, I'm going for Szoboszlai as the right back and McAllister partnering Gravenberch. But Frimpong is available, so they could play him as the right back. There's also Connor Bradley, who just hasn't started for the Reds so far this season. And I think Milos Kerkez could still start despite Robertson having a great week, and he might be first choice at this moment in time. With Man City, there's always a concern about their starting 11, and that's why I've only gotten 35 correct. But I think Kusanov will be the right back. It will be a 4-1-4-1 formation, essentially. And I think this is the most likely starting 11 with Gvardiol and Diaz in the defence, Ake on the left. But it could also be the Croatian as the left back, and John Stones could return this weekend. He was back on the grass before the Napoli game, a 2-0 victory for Man City. With Man United, this is another difficult one to predict. Both Mason Mount and Cunha are back in the squad. That doesn't mean they'll start, but I think they'll be desperate to get Cunha some minutes. He'll be very important in that game. So if they're not fully fit and ready to start, it will be Bruno Fernandes, potentially a bit higher, with Mainu partnering Casemiro, but they can also play Amad Diallo as part of that front three with Mbumo and Benjamin Sesko. So it all depends on Cunha and Mount's fitness in that game. With Newcastle, Fabian Schär suffered a head injury against Barcelona and Trippier had a knock. So I think Livramento will start on the right, Lewis Hall as the left back, and Chow, signed from AC Milan, will partner Dan Burn. Jacob Murphy might have been a slight injury concern as well, but I think he'll start over Elanga. That's not guaranteed though, and don't be surprised to see Elanga get the nod against Bournemouth. With Forest, I've actually gone for Morata instead of Murillo based on the update we got yesterday by Ange Postecoglou. A few other changes might include Igor Jesus up front. I don't think that'll be the case, to be honest. I think Chris Wood will start, but Douglas Luiz over Sangare is a real possibility, and some predicted lineups don't have Hudson-Odoi in there, and I think Ndoye could be shifted to the left, and then we'll see a different winger implemented into that Forest side. With Sunderland, I've gone for this starting 11. Ballard is available, but I still think it'll be Mukiele and Alderete as the centre-backs. And with Tottenham Hotspur, one of my biggest concerns is Xavi Simons or Brennan Johnson, and maybe one of Bergvall or Pape Mate Sarr drop to the bench. That is another possibility, but Spurs have a few options in certain positions, and Udogie is another one who could start left back in the coming weeks. But I've gone for this for the Lily Whites. And for West Ham, Paqueta could play up front with Somerville on the left, Matheus Fernandes as the attacking midfielder, but I've gone for Fulkrug up front, and Magassa should replace the suspended Thomas Soucek. The final team is Wolves, the worst team in terms of predictions for me, but hopefully I can get a good score this time round. Jose Sarr was ill against Newcastle, but he did travel to with the squad, and I think he'll be back in this 11 facing Leeds at home. One of my biggest gripes would be Agbadou or Totti Gomez. I think one of them could drop to the bench, but I've gone for Agbadou, Mosquera and Krejci in that defensive line, Rodrigo Gomez and Hugo Bueno as the wing-backs, Arias, Manetzi and Tolu up front. Strand Larsen is back, but he's not ready to play 90 minutes as confirmed by Vitor Pereira. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Drop a like, all that good stuff. Let's close in on 36,000 subscribers. I think we can do so by the end of today. And there's plenty more UCL Fantasy and FPL content to look forward to. So thank you for the super chat. Let me just get to that right now. And I'll also see what the members have been saying. So Paredes, big up to you. Hey Dylan, still owns Sarr and can't make Sarr to Semenyo move. I'm leaning to roll. Wirtz is in my starting 11. Captain Salah or Joao Pedro. I'd captain Salah. And I understand your situation of not being able to get Semenyo. That's why I made it a priority to get Lacroix last week to give me the funds to buy Semenyo now. Start Reinders or Diouf. I'd go for Reinders, to be fair. And start Sells or Dubravka. I still prefer Forest. I'm going for a 2-1 win for them. It's a close one, though. I think Burnley have a real chance of getting a point, at least, maybe even all three. But, yeah, I still think Forest will bounce back and get a win under Ange Postecoglou. So, yeah, Salah, captain, start Reinders and start Sells. That's my advice. In terms of what you could do to get Semenyo, I think the best thing to do is sell Wirtz to Semenyo. If you don't want to do it this week, I understand, but I would do it in Game Week 6, to be honest. Thank you to Mitra. Question for my FPL draft. Start 3. One of them has to be a defender. So Igor, Thiago, Caicedo, Grealish, Van de Ven, Chalobah, Cash. I would start Caicedo. The defense is close. It's between Van de Ven and Cash. And if you base it on form and also the defense this season, I think Spurs would definitely be the standout, so Van de Ven. But I still think Brighton could score a goal or two. That's my kind of gut feeling. I think Villa Sunderland could be lower scoring. It's a difficult one to say. I'm going to say Cash. That's based on my predictions. I really hope I don't lead you in the wrong direction when it comes to it. If you're ultimately predicting Spurs to win or keep a clean sheet, go for Van de Ven. That's the safer pick. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to say Cash based on my predictions. Caicedo and one more. Probably go for Igor Thiago and chase the upside. I think Grealish would be on the bench for me against Liverpool. So thank you for the super chat. Play Strand Larsen, bench Reinders. I think Strand Larsen will be a substitute. Now, Vitor Pereira said he can play, but not the full 90. So could he start, get 50, 60 minutes? Yes, but ideally you want 60 plus for the appearance point and obviously a better chance of scoring goals in general. But I'm not convinced he starts. I think Hwang Hee-chan will, alongside Tolu, their new signing. Morning, Dylan. Bench Gabriel for Senesi. I would personally. I think Bournemouth have a better chance of a clean sheet, despite the odds not suggesting that. Morning, mate. Hope you're well. Would you start Dubravka or Vicario? Probably Vicario. I think both teams will concede twice in my predictions, but Spurs have the better defence, so naturally I'd go for Vicario. It's a close one, though. And would you start Richards or Romero? I'd go for Richards. Van Dijk and Munoz are my other two defenders. Yeah, I'd go for Vicario and Richards. I think that's the best way to go about it with your setup. Hopefully it pays dividends. Buy Gay or Senesi? Oh, long-term is Senesi all day long. For this week, I prefer Gay, but yeah, Senesi is the better long-term asset. He'll get DEFCON more regularly. Semenyo or Mbeumo? Semenyo all day long. Even if by the end of this week... Oh, Mbeumo outscored him. I couldn't care less. I think Semenyo is the better pick. He's also cheaper and plays in the better team. So it's going to be Semenyo. Morning, Twister Parky. LLJ says, who would I captain out of these three? Salah's top of my list. It's as simple as that. I'll show you it one more time later in the stream. Aditya says Frimpong will start. Yeah, Bradley has been injured. I understand that, but he has been in the squad for a couple of games now, and he just doesn't really get the minutes. I'll have a look now at Liverpool 11 and see if Frimpong is in there, but I don't think there's a real need to rush him. And Frimpong started the other day, so we'll see. Maybe there's a Liverpool source that is saying he's going to start, which is fair enough. If you have any links, any leaks, anything like that, let me know, and we can all go through it together. But yeah, I don't see any Liverpool lineup just yet. The same goes for Everton as well. No, that's not. Yeah. I did see one predicted lineup with Frimpong in there. Yeah, I'm seeing a few flying around. That could be a change to my final lineup. But yeah, it's a difficult one to say, to be fair. I think that's the biggest concern with Liverpool, even over Isak Ekitike right now. I think it's Frimpong or Szoboszlai at right back. So yeah, I'll have a look at that and we can go through it. And of course, once the lineups are officially confirmed, I'll be showing you that on screen. Is a bench boost with Dubravka, Gabriel, Dewsbury, and Senesi worth it? I'm going to say no. You've got Gabriel facing Man City, Dewsbury facing Liverpool away. Senesi's fine. He's fixture-proof. He can still give you 2 to 4 points as a minimum, pretty much. Dubravka is okay, but I'm going to say save it for later, in my opinion. With one free transfer, would you do Barnes to Xavi Simons or roll? It depends, because if you can roll and then buy Semenyo, for example, next week, I just do that. I think that would be the bigger priority. Rangers for Doku, what do you think? Doku has been in brilliant form, to be fair. Scored against Napoli, 2 assists against United, and he was actually one of my tips to be the most improved player, albeit I said that last season as well. But yeah, with Doku, I probably wouldn't. Reinders also should have scored against Man City. He really had multiple chances to make an impact there. And I think Reinders will get a return very soon, probably against Burnley. I'm going to say keep Reinders for now. Play Nico Williams or Estev. Nico Williams. Yeah, so Doku as an option is fine. I think he's worth a punt. I'd probably do that against Burnley, though, and there is chance of rotation there. So Doku will likely start against Arsenal this weekend, but I couldn't guarantee you he does in Game Week 6. That's my main concern. The same goes for Foden as well, who would be my preference in the Man City midfield. Rodgers to Semenyo. Yeah, great transfer. There's an argument to say you don't need to do it this week, but I think Semenyo is a clear upgrade. Bench 1, Munoz, Borro, or Milenkovic. I'm going to say Borro. Yeah. Field Pedro Borro or Cucurella. I've gone for 1-1 Chelsea United and 2-2 in the Tottenham game. I think Borro still has more attacking threat. Neither have really shown much this season from that perspective. I'm going to say Cucurella. Yeah, Parma would be ideal for me, but the biggest priority is Erling Haaland. As I showed you before, I could buy Palmer in for Salah and Haaland for Watkins, but I would have to sell Gabriel to Senesi or Borro to a 4.3 defender. That's the main concern there. But I'm definitely considering it. There's no doubt about it. Start Borro or Konsa? I'd probably start Pedro Borro. Yeah. Or Porro, as people like to say. If you're not made transfers before AFCON, 5 transfers, will we have another extra transfer that we will not use? No, that's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter how many transfers you got before AFCON. So once Gameweek 16 hits, everyone gets 5. So that's why my advice is to use up as many as possible. I know sometimes the best thing to do in FPL is nothing and not change your team. But if you see an opportunity to chase fixtures or use a bench boost or something like that, that's where the 5 free transfers could be very useful, and you can use all of them up. Hello, what to do with Eight Nuri? I think he's a sell. I'm not sure if I go to Gvardiol though. He was very impressive against Napoli, to be fair, and I think Gvardiol can play multiple positions. He should be quite nailed on in that City team, but I'd rather go for Gabriel and Van Dijk in the long term. Hi Dylan, which 2 to bench? Estev, Borro, Gabriel, Reinders, Dewsbury Hall. I'd bench Dewsbury Hall and Estev. Yeah, there's certainly an argument to bench Reinders there. It's a difficult one because look, if you look at my setup, and I normally tell people, look at my bench order and also my starting 11 for some of your questions, I've currently got Gabriel third, but I have to be honest, I don't feel comfortable about that, so I'll reconsider that for sure. I would definitely start Pedro Porro, there's no doubt about that. Then I'd say one of Gabriel or Reinders. I'd start one of them. You could go for both to cover the best, so you not guarantee a return, but you do, you have the Man City coverage just in case, and you've also got that Gabriel potential clean sheet or something like that. And they can also score in the same game, by the way, Gabriel and Reinders. It's possible, but yeah, I think if you're balancing out overall, you're probably going to say Borro, Estev, and then one of the other 2. I'd definitely bench Dewsbury Hall. That's my opinion on it. Well, I did mention Kevin, actually, Marwin. I'm just not going to buy him this week. I mean, I bought Semenyo. That was a clear upgrade in my midfield that needed to happen. But yeah, Kevin was actually one of my shouts for this week. For people who are free hitting or want a 1-week punt for Gameweek 5. John Pork says, hey Dylan, love the stream. Thank you very much. Would you start Tarkovsky or Reinildo Mandava? I'd go for Reinildo Mandava. That is going to be a low-scoring game in my opinion. In terms of DEFCON, Tarkovsky will likely get it against Liverpool. I'd be shocked if he didn't. With Reinildo, you've just got a better chance of a clean sheet, so I'm going to lean towards him. I have Salah captain. Yep, so do I. And I don't think I'll change that, despite Gandhi threatening me a little bit from an FPL perspective. Raya or Dubravka? In my wildcard video, I had both of them, and I talked about starting Raya, but yeah, this week there's certainly a debate to go for Dubravka. The same goes for Darlow, for those that have him. I'm going to say Dubravka. I think City will score. Watkins for captain. He's 10th in my list. I personally wouldn't have enough confidence to go there. I did it in Gameweek 2. I got burned massively. I think there are better options like Salah, Semenyo, even Haaland this week, but yeah, not for me. Son of Thors. Is that from Vinland Saga? Thors! Captain Semenyo. When I have Haaland and Pedro today, YOLO. Yeah, I like Semenyo. He's third in my list. Good record against Newcastle, and they might be very tired after that Thursday game against Barcelona. Ekatike for Waldemar. I'd keep Ekatike for now. Reassess in Gameweek 6. Alexander Rogic says, play 2 and bench 3. I would start Waldemar and probably Livramento and kind of just hope that Newcastle get the victory there. I'll be honest though, Senesi will probably give you DEFCON anyway, so you can start Waldemar and Senesi. My only concern is that you're basically clashing a little bit, a bit like the Gabriel Reinders situation. This might seem controversial. I'm going to say Waldemar and Senesi. I think that's probably your best bet in terms of getting a return. Just my opinion. Okay, so what I'm going to do, there's something I'm forgetting to do, isn't there? Processing, update. Yeah, no, I think my brain's fried or something. Yeah, just one more time, since we've got, 45 minutes roughly to spare. I'm going to go through different screens and just for those that are tuning in late. I also encourage people to rewind at times, and then you can catch up again to get answers to your questions and stuff. But I have covered different graphics and different tidbits in terms of lineups, you know, potential team news, also the predicted points. There's so much here, clean sheet odds, top 10 captains. So I'll go through that one more time. Before you do, though, be sure to join my mini league. It's very easy. So the code, if I actually remember it, do I remember it? Probably not. But you will see it in most of the graphics on screen, and it's very easy. There's an auto-join link. You can also copy the code into the app and also the website. With the FDR, the bottom 6 teams include Brentford, Palace, Newcastle, Fulham, Everton, and Liverpool. Interesting. For the top 6, though, Villa are still there, just about. Man City are 5th. Spurs are in the top 4. Forest, Leeds, and Wolves are the top 3. So very interesting stuff there when it comes to the FDR. If you look at Arsenal, for example, they're 8th, but there is a clear swing from Game Week 7. That's when you really want to get in on Arsenal. And then if we kind of change the parameters a little bit, they are top of the FDR from Game Week 7 to 12. So very soon, there will be a huge push for Arsenal players. And the same goes for Man City, especially in the case of Erling Haaland in Game Week 6. So this will change every single week. That's why I always show you this during my deadline streams and reactions. It's a very useful way of seeing, you know, where the fixture swings are and how we can maybe get a bit early on certain assets. With predicted points, the top 10 includes Joao Pedro, Gakpo, Cunha, Ekitike, Virgil van Dijk, Fernandes, Haaland, Semenyo, Watkins, and Mohamed Salah. But from Game Week 6 onwards, Haaland will be the top dog for sure. With price changes, I'm going to refresh this a little bit. So Timber, Waldemar, Paqueta, Xavi Simons, Salah, and Zubimendi could go up in price. There's a lot of predicted price falls. Go to the website livefpl.net. I've put it in the description. No, I put it in the live chat earlier. I'll put it one more time for those that didn't see it. So yeah, these websites are very useful when it comes to planning and also seeing these potential changes in FPL. I compared the stats of Haaland and Salah again, and I probably won't do this for Game Week 6. There might be a little bit of a different question on the horizon. But my advice for those with Salah, keep him. I think captain in Game Week 5. But in Game Week 6, a clear shift to Haaland will definitely be on the cards when he faces Burnley at home. And I could triple captain him very soon. And also with the wildcard squad, I made a video on this so you can see the whole commentary there in that respective podcast. The same goes for my lineups video yesterday. But this is what I've kind of gone for as one of the drafts with Raya in goal and a bit of a different structure to what you've seen previously. Chris Wood is a short-term punt. He would be moved on in a couple of weeks' time, ideally to Gyökeres, but you would need to find money to make that happen. Maybe Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo could be one of the cash cows to get that done. And I think Caicedo could be a brilliant option in the midfield. I also talk about a structure with Palmer and Haaland simultaneously. That would be a very underrated way of approaching FPL right now. And in my situation, if I really could, I will try to get Cole Palmer in. But as you can see, it means buying Senesi for Gabriel and taking a -8 hit. But selling Watkins to Haaland, sign me up. I'd be on that train all day long for sure. So FPL Challenge, I'll go back to very soon, like I said, because the focus now will be on Fantasy Premier League. Let's go through the scoreline predictions, top 10 captains and all that one last time. So this will also inform you of some of my decisions when it comes to starting certain players and captaining. But yeah, maybe not many surprises in my scoreline predictions this week, except for Villa, surprisingly. You know, usually they'd be the heavy favourites against Sunderland. Maybe not this time round. West Ham is the team to target this season. That's been quite clear, with one exception against Forest. But I still think Jean-Philippe Mateta is right up there when it comes to the captaincy. And his heat map is quite promising when you stack that up against West Ham's defensive line and where they're considering the chances. Liverpool are top of the clean sheet odds. So I don't know why I'm pausing it. Sorry about that. Villa are second. But as you can see, the probabilities are very low this week. Arsenal are third, despite facing Man City at home. Fulham, Forest, and Wolves are in the top 6. Everton are last. Basically, anyone who faces Liverpool are going to be bottom of the clean sheet odds. So with the top 10 captains, this is my list. Haaland is as low as 6th, but he will jump straight to first. There's no doubt about that against Burnley next week. Watkins is 10th, just about. Mateta, Joao Pedro, Ekitike, Gakpo, that's a bit interchangeable. Haaland, Palmer, Semenyo, Wood, and Salah. That's my definitive list. I think the Egyptian is the best option this week, and I'll go for him one last time. So I'm going to go back to my FPL team. As I said, I'm fairly locked in. But what I'll do now is a little poll. and I'll see what you lot think in terms of who to start. That is my only dilemma now, who to start between Ndai, Konsa, maybe Borro, but I'll probably just start him anyway. So let's go for these players. Konsa, Reinildo. Let's put Reinders and Gabriel. So it's between these 4 players for the last starting spot. Let's see what people are saying. And if there are any members or super chats, they will be covered first. So let's just have a look. Yeah, Nagib says who to bench between Reinildo, Reinders, Gabriel. Well, the poll I put out will help you with that. Obviously, Konsa also adds something to it. But yeah, from those 3 players, I've currently got Reinders first on the bench. So that's what I would lean towards. He definitely should have scored against Man United. Play Reinders or Xhaka? I'd play Reinders. Now, Xhaka, in his last season for Arsenal, was playing a box-to-box role. I just think he's playing a little bit deeper with Sunderland, and he's not going to get as many goal contributions as he did with Bayer Leverkusen or with the Gunners in his last season. Just Parky says wildcard. Wow, okay, so thoughts, what changes would you make? I like the goalkeepers, absolutely fine. You might want to consider Darlow, albeit that's maybe less long-term than Martin Dubravka. Rodon, okay, so a Leeds defender, could be Goodmanson, but that's fine. Virgil van Dijk, Van de Ven. Yeah, I like the look of it so far. Senesi's a brilliant choice. Semenyo, Caicedo, Salah, Strand Larsen. I don't think Strand Larsen will start, but he will be a massive boost, and Wolves are top of the FDR, so that could be a very underrated shout, actually. He's the only Wolves player I'd really consider, to be quite honest with you, so that is a decent punt. Reinders, Tossin, Dewsbury Hall. My only concern is you don't have much money in the midfield. So you've got Caicedo, who for me is absolutely fine. Don't worry about him. But you've also got Dewsbury Hall and Reinders. So I would ideally have someone a little bit more expensive, so it makes your squad structure a little bit more flexible. I get why you're doing it, though, because you've got Haaland and Joao Pedro up front. You've also got Semenyo, Salah. It's a way of fitting both Salah and Haaland in. I get that. But one consideration I would make is Salah to Palmer, and then upgrading your other midfielders like Dewsbury Hall up to, let's say, Xavi Simons as one example, or you might even go up to Mbeumo. I just think there are ways of improving that overall 50-man squad. It does mean selling Salah. I know you're going for something a bit different, and this looks really enticing, but I just don't like the fact you've got 3 budget midfielders, albeit one of them is Caicedo, who is a brilliant option in FPL now. Best differential midfielder around 6.5, 6.9. For this game week only, I'd say Kevin is a shout. I think he's going to start, look really impressive against Leeds, so it's a bit of a punt. I also think it could be high scoring between Fulham and Brentford. Yeah. Otherwise, maybe Ndoye or a Forest midfielder against Burnley, but that is certainly debatable right now. Senesi or Goodmanson? This week, it's a very close one. Usually, I just say Senesi because of DEFCON. I'm probably going to say the same thing again, but it's very close. Start Estev or Van de Ven? Van de Ven. Would you bench boost Reinders, Estev, Dubravka and Borro? That's a decent bench, to be fair. I have Senesi, Richardson, Dye and Diouf as well. I'd start Borro over Diouf anyway. I mean, it's a good bench. I don't think it's a terrible one. You could definitely use it and get 10 plus points, maybe even more, which would be a successful bench boost in a single game week. So I'm not completely against it. I think there will be better opportunities in terms of fixtures and timing later in the season. Which 3 to bench? So Elliott, Senesi, Munoz, Schade, Larsen, Konsa, Van de Ven. Well, Larsen might not start, but even off the bench he could score. I'd definitely start Munoz. I'd probably take a punt on Larsen, although his minutes aren't secure. Schade is interesting. I'd probably start Schade, actually. Yeah, I'd start Munoz. Sorry, Schade and Strand Larsen. Renan Costa says Gakpo and Fernandes to Semenyo and Palmer for a -4. So I remember this question from earlier, but you didn't mention the -4, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't take a -4 hit this week, as much as I like Semenyo and Palmer. Maybe do that next week for free, actually. Yeah, so Timber is relatively secure now because Ben White suffered another setback, but I think the reports indicated that he is going to be close to returning. I think Arteta said yesterday that White, Odegaard, and a few other players were following their own training program. Saka might have been the other player. Yeah, Timber will start this weekend. Calafiori has been brilliant for Arsenal, but you've got Hincapié, who is a quality defender who can play as a left back and centre back. I think he could enter that 11 as a left back over Calafiori. And you've also got the Italian being very injury prone, unfortunately. So out of the two, I think Timber is safer long term. Van de Ven or Cucurella this week? It's close. I'd lean towards Cucurella. Dylan, is there a doubt for Rangers to start? I think Rangers will start. My opinion is that he'll be rested in the Carabao Cup, I believe, against Huddersfield. So that will be in midweek, by the way. So he should start against Arsenal, Burnley, and also in the Champions League. So I don't think he'll be benched. Like, would it completely shock me? Not really, and I don't really mind because I think City might be weaker for it, and it also means I've got Rangers on my bench quite comfortably. But yeah, I think Rangers will start, personally. I'm not sure why, mate, but what you need to do is go to the app or the website, make the transfers, and then activate the wildcard. Make sure that the transfers go through. That then locks in your wildcard, and you can't reverse it afterwards. But you need to do that first. In my opinion, I can't speak for everybody because you've got different situations and, you know, different files to put out. But I think Gameweek 5 is a very awkward time to wildcard or free hit. That's just my perspective on it. Good luck, Dylan. Who should I start in my midfield? Kudus or Anderson? I'd start Kudus this week, and thank you very much. Start Rangers or Ndai. My preference is Ndai. It's a close one, though, and the poll also reflects that, even though Ndai isn't in that sort of dilemma. By the way, Concert is winning just about. Gabriel is second. Or he was second. Now it's joint second with Rangers. And Reinildo Mandava is last. Wow, so there you go. I think Gabriel over Reinildo might be a possibility for me in terms of the bench order. Imagine that. So every few minutes, Gabriel just moves up one spot, and then finds his way into my starting 11. I'm not sure about that, by the way. We'll see. Jer22 says, I have 2 free transfers this week, and my team is Sanchez. Sorry, my chat just froze. Give me a second. Kinski, Esteve, Anderson, Virgil van Dijk, Williams, Sporro, Semenyo, Salah, Wirtz, Reinders, Kudus, Watkins, Guiu, and Gyökeres. 9 million left. Wow, I'd be so tempted to do Guiu to Haaland, and you need like 1 million to afford that, but yeah, that would be brilliant. That's something you might want to consider, actually, very soon. Yeah, for this week, you might be okay, but what I would probably do is Guiu to Haaland next week, and to afford it, Wirtz to Caicedo, or even it could be a 7 million midfielder like Xavi Simons. That could work as well for you. So, yeah, you're in a decent position, actually. I mean, ultimately, do you need Gyökeres, Haaland, Watkins, and then those 5 midfielders? And that's a lot of squad depth, and you will have benching headaches. But yeah, with Caicedo in for Wirtz, and then Guiu to Haaland, you're in a great position, in my opinion. Bob says, do I transfer in Lacroix for Diouf or hold and have 2 free transfers next week to get in Haaland for triple captain? I really like Lacroix this week and long term, but I'd probably hold and buy Haaland and triple captain next week. That is the best way to go about it. Thank you for the super chat, Aranya. Always appreciated. Squad, Dubravka, Reinildo, Frimpong, Van de Ven, Semenyo, Salah, Indoi, Reinders, Rogers, Joao Pedro, Haaland, Sanchez, Murillo, Esteve, Guiu. 2 free transfers, 0.6 in the bank, moves. Well, Frimpong might not start today, even though some Liverpool fans might think otherwise, and that could be one of my inaccurate predictions for my lineups. I think for this week, you are okay, and it's the same thing with a lot of people, actually. Long term, for example, I would recommend something like Murillo to Lacroix, or you could go to Senesi. That also gives you more money in the bank for future moves as well. And you can buy Caicedo in the midfield. You might even prioritize Cole Palmer. You've already got Salah and Haaland, which is a great position to be in, but you could argue there are a few sacrifices in your setup. For example, you've got 2 4 million defenders to facilitate that sort of structure. And you've got Guiu on your bench. With 0.6 in the bank, that's quite an awkward one, but yeah, I think your defensive line needs bolstering. Only Van de Ven looks really good at the moment. Reinildo's fine at 4 million. Frimpong, if he can get back into that 11 today and continuously start, that's fine. But I think Van Dijk is better long term. The same goes for Gabriel. So I think your defensive line is the biggest priority right now. And you could also do something like Rodgers to Caicedo as well, for example, and do that sort of transfer to give you even more money for other transfers as well. Start Murillo or Porro? I'd start Murillo just in case, but there is a chance he doesn't start, and he's not in my predicted lineup right now. Yeah, VQ7N, it was covered earlier, mate. A few times, actually. So just rewind a little bit. You'll see my top 10 captains. Essentially, I think Salah's the best. If you don't have him, I look at Chris Wood or Semenyo. So the league code, by the way, for those who want to join my FPL mini league is WFF0U7. And I've also got one for FPL Challenge. Those links can be found in the description. Like this video, I've answered hundreds of questions and covered everything you need to know for Gameweek 5 and beyond. And let's get to 36,000 subscribers. We might even have done so already. I'll have a look and see if we've reached that goal, but we should be very close now if we haven't done so already. Yeah, we're 19 away from 36k, so if you haven't done so, you know what to do. It's all free, and it's genuinely appreciated. Thank you to those that have done so. And also to the moderators for keeping the chat in order. And yeah, hopefully the chat stops freezing for me. That would also help a lot. Coopsy Coop says, hey Dylan, start 2 of Strand Larsen, Esteve and Dewsbury Hall. I'd start the first 2 and bench Dewsbury Hall. Now, it's worth noting with Strand Larsen, he's not ready to play 90 minutes. So bear that in mind. So yeah, my YouTube on my end did kind of crash. So that's why I did lose the chat for a little bit. We have hit our super chat goal according to this. And I've gone through all the super chats, which is good. So thank you to everyone who has sent in a question and yeah, a lot of different things as well. And also to Lager for putting the league code in the live chat. Thank you very much. How many chips do we have this season? 2 of each. So we've got 2 wild cards, 2 bench boosts, 2 free hits, and 2 triple captains. 1 for each half of the season. I actually talked about this earlier in the stream when I went through my chip strategy slides and talked about possible gameweeks to use every single one of them. And there's also a video on that, of course, which I made before the season started. By Senesi or Lacroix, I like both of them a lot. For this week, I prefer Lacroix, but let's not forget Palace face Liverpool at home in Gameweek 6 as well. Bournemouth have better fixtures, so I would lean towards Senesi, who's also a bit cheaper at 4.7. It depends, mate, because if you got Murillo and a decent option to come in for him, I'd probably just keep Murillo for now, and then you can buy Senesi or Lacroix in the coming weeks. But yeah, I think the biggest chance of getting an immediate return would be Lacroix this week. He could score against West Ham and also get a clean sheet. Defcon is always a possibility with him too. Ramoles 10 dice, hola, I still got Saar, best replacement. Tengo 2 free transfers, by the way. Spanglish, yes, welcome to the club. If you've got the funds, Semenyo is the easy one. That might not be the case for you, but with 2 free transfers, you can make a move like Murillo to Lacroix and then buy Semenyo in for Ismaila Sarr, which is exactly what I've done as well over the last couple of weeks, I should say, not the coming weeks. And that'll be Erling Haaland probably. My defense is Agbadou, Richards, Murillo, Cucurella, and Borro. Who should I start? I've got Bruno in the 11, so maybe a back 4. I would start Borro, Richards, and, well, this is the thing, though, with Murillo. You'd still want to start him. Okay, I'd start Richards, Murillo, and Cucurella, and have Borro first on your bench, Agbadou second. I have gone for a 1-0 Wolves win, but I'm also a bit conflicted about that. My problem with Agbadou is he might not even start. He is in my lineup, but one of my main concerns with that defensive line is whether it will be him or Totti Gomez dropping out, with Krejci moving from the midfield to his more natural position as a defender. So, yeah, not an easy question there. You've got a decent defensive line this week, actually. What gameweek will the likes of Salah be flying out? Gameweek 6, yeah. Despite playing really well against Atletico Madrid in midweek. Bench Ndai, Wood, or Wirtz? Ndai. I would start Chris Wood and Wirtz this week. Big loss for Chelsea in the Champions League. Surely United will pay the price, right? Well, the problem is United have had a full week to rest. Not that it's really helped them this season, but yeah, it could really affect Chelsea. It took a lot out of them. I think Chelsea were decent, especially in the first half, but you know, when you come up against top quality opposition like Bayern Munich, they could, you know, easily beat any team in the world. So they're right up there. I think Bayern are a top 5 side in Europe. Chelsea are probably like a top 20, maybe top 15 side, maybe nearing the top 10, of course, as we speak. But there are still levels to go to. And as I always say, I think that defensive line and Sanchez isn't good enough to challenge for the Champions League or win the title, but that could still come in time. Is Kluivert likely to play? I think he'll come off the bench. Ryan Christie is also available for Bournemouth. Diakite will be in the squad, but he's not 100% fit. But yeah, Kluivert I don't think starts at the moment. Underrated pick to buy, players that we don't talk so much in the stream. Well, I mentioned Kevin as a one-week punt based on that short cameo against Leeds, and I think that game against Brentford will be high scoring. I've gone for 3-2 Fulham. 1 week mid punt 7.3. Same answer. I'm going to say Kevin. Something a little bit different, you know, instead of the usual jargon and, you know, boring stuff. Start 2, Tosin, Senesi, and Caicedo. Senesi and Caicedo for me. Declan says start 1, Van der Ven, Reinildo, and Estev. I'd probably go for Van der Ven here, just about. Rank these for the week: Wood, Ndoye, Kolomwani. Chris Wood first. Yeah, probably the way he ranked it. Ndoye second, Kolomwani third. That could be an underrated shout, by the way. Maybe Kolomwani starts for Tottenham Hotspur, but I've gone for Richarlison up front. It's between Xavi Simons and Brennan Johnson on the left. They could still start together with one of Bergvall or Pape Sarr dropping out, and Kudus will definitely start on the right. Have 2 free transfers. If I just do one move this week, Gameweek 6 have 2 free transfers or just one? No, if you use one now, you'll have 2 free transfers next week. The only way you get up to 3 is if you roll. So yeah, that's the way it works. No worries there, Big Sam. Start 2, Van der Ven, King, Tavernier, Tosin. Well, that's a good question. I would take a punt on King. His minutes are going to be less secure now, but I think he's probably worth it. And I would start... I think Tavernier is decent, actually, against Newcastle. Tosin would be at the bottom of the list, I believe, which might age horribly. But yeah, King, and I'm going to say Tavernier. For some Kalimundo, I think the biggest risk or contender for Chris Wood's starting berth is Igor Jesus, who scored a brace against Swansea City in midweek. But Kalimundo could be one to look out for in the coming weeks, but I think Chris Wood will start. Yeah, Ekitike will start in my opinion, Thomas, as I covered yesterday in my Predicted Lineups podcast, and also today I did show you the lineups. I'll go through them very quickly. I'm not going to provide commentary since I've done that on 2 occasions now, including today. So just look at these, let me know your thoughts, and of course, if you are a fan of one of these teams, you might even have some inside info. Yeah, provide your feelings and thoughts in the live chat. And one modification I could make is Frimpong in at right back for Dominik Szoboszlai, with the Hungarian midfielder moving into his more natural position and McAllister dropping to the bench. You'll see that very soon. And of course, it's not going to be 100%. It's just a rough guide of how each team could line up in Gameweek 5. I think Isak will come off the bench and have a cameo. I don't think he'll start. Ekitike should get the nod in the early kickoff. But let's wait and see, because no one expected Isak to get the nod in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, all the changes from yesterday's video were highlighted earlier in the stream, like Aronson at right wing for Leeds United. And the rest speaks for itself. I also modified a few of the price changes that happened overnight, like Enzo Fernandez and Senesi both went up in price to 6.7 and 4.7 million respectively. And expect to see more price changes happen tonight, as I covered before, with the website livefpl.net. Brennan Johnson's another one who could start, of course, for Tottenham Hotspur. That was covered earlier. And that completes all 20 predicted lineups. And one popular question I'm getting this week is the captaincy. So here you go, the top 10 list. Salah for me is the undisputed number 1. Then I've got Chris Wood in second, which is a bit controversial. Semenyo is third. Then it's Gakpo, which could easily be Ekitike as well. Palmer, Haaland, João Pedro, Mateta, and Watkins. That completes the top 10. And yeah, Gyökeres would be an underrated shout this week. Maybe Kevin or a Fulham attacker. But I've gone for this top 10 list for Gameweek 5. It will definitely be clearer, of course, going into Gameweek 6. Haaland will be by far and away the most template and obvious choice on paper, and he might even be my triple captain, as I'll discuss in my upcoming team selection video. Let's now go back to my team and answer some last few questions, since the deadline is looming. Only 20 minutes left until we lock in. Kevin, Ndoye or Kolomwani? For this week, I'm going to say Kevin. I'll probably stick with that answer. I think Szoboszlai plays at right back against teams playing deep low block, since we wouldn't need 4 defenders to deal with them anyways. Yeah, that's true. And Szoboszlai offers something different in that position. He's probably more similar to Trent than Frimpong in terms of the range of passing, for example. And that could also be good for Salah, as we saw against Atletico. But yeah, Frimpong is a different style of winger, a wing back, should we say. He likes to bomb forward, making the overlaps, while Szoboszlai can invert more. So yeah, that's a good point. It might depend on the opposition. Everton will surely sit back in a low block, and I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Thank you, Aranya, for the super chat. Start 3. Reinildo, Esteve, Frimpong, Lacroix, and Van de Ven. I'd definitely start Lacroix, 100%. Then I would probably go for Van de Ven. Frimpong's an interesting one. If we got news before the deadline that he's starting, I'd go for Frimpong. I'm just not sure if he will start. I've got Szoboszlai in my starting 11 right now as the right back. But yeah, definitely Lacroix and Van de Ven, mate. And if we don't get the confirmation of Frimpong starting, it's such an awkward one. But yeah, I'm going to say Frimpong. But it's a risky one for the minutes. So yeah, we'll get back to that one. That's the only concern with your starting 3 question. Hey mate, I've got Raya and Haaland. Would you start Dubravka? That's another poll I'm going to put out. Dubravka versus Sanchez, and I have a feeling the 4 million goalkeeper will win this time round. But yeah, Ryan Haaland is fine. I'd probably lean towards Dubravka though this week, and then just start David Raya in every other game week virtually. 1-0 Arsenal did cross my mind though in my predictions. I have gone for 2-1 in the end. And even a 3-1 was kind of crossing my mind. It's a very difficult game to predict, and City can still get a result. But yeah, having Ryan Haaland's a bit awkward. Ultimately, you don't expect both of them to haul in the same game. I'd go for Dubravka. Start Rangers or Nico Williams? Slight preference for Nico Williams. Should I do Haaland and Salah if the team is slightly weaker? It depends what sort of sacrifices you're making, but the fact you're saying your team is weaker, I'd reconsider it. Karem says, hi Dylan, I have a really strong team for Game Week 6, but I don't have any City players and my team will be poor from Game Week 7 onwards, so should I wildcard in 6 or 7? So, if you're planning on triple captaining in 6, if you don't wildcard, that could be a consideration as well. Now, you're saying you don't have any City players, so I would imagine you won't triple captain, right? But in Game Week 6, for example, you could take a -4 hit maybe, use free transfers ideally, and then get Erling Haaland, triple captain him, and then wildcard in 7 to then get Arsenal and City players when both of them have great fixtures in the long term. So that would be the ideal way of playing it. So if you can do that, mate, I would suggest triple captaining Haaland in 6 by bringing him in for a -4 hit or something, and then wildcarding in 7 to get Arsenal and City players. That might be the play. But you do say yourself, you've got a really strong team for Game Week 6. So yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it. Beware of early kickoff, lads. Yes, but I wouldn't mind jinxing Salah and Liverpool. It just probably won't mean anything. They keep winning. What do you think of Pino? He really should have scored against Sunderland. Very lively, good play overall, but not someone I would consider in fantasy just yet. He could definitely score or assist against West Ham, but long term, I think there are better options. Thank you, Hassan, for the super chat. Van de Ven or Reinders to play? Already have Borro. I'd probably go for Reinders then. The only concern there is that he's facing the best defence in the Premier League, one of the best in Europe, but Reinders has that unique ability of making those late runs into the box. He's quite difficult to mark from that perspective, and he could be one of the game changers for City this weekend. Bench boost of Dubravka, Elliot Anderson, Esteve, and De Kuyper. De Kuyper might not start. Hörsler did hint that it will be Kadioglu marking Kudus this weekend. The others are fine. It's not a terrible bench boost. It could easily get 10-15 points. I'm going to say no, though, and I have done for a lot of situations this week. Thank you once again to Awali, and to anyone who is spamming, just be patient. You will get your questions answered, so just be patient. Yes. JW89 says Sanchez and Gabriel or Raya and Chalobah with 0.5 on a wildcard. Sanchez and Gabriel. Hi, should I put in Gabriel or Anderson? Says Dusty Edits. I'd probably start Elliot Anderson this week, but remember, his DEFCON potential will be higher in difficult fixtures like Arsenal away, as opposed to Burnley. But of course, his chance of scoring or assisting will be higher in a game week like this. I I just chance it on Anderson for the fixture, though. Pickford or Verbruggen to start? Probably Verbruggen. Cunha is fit, but starting... Yeah, I get that. I wasn't even fully convinced about that myself. I think if he's not fully fit, he's going to be on the bench and make a cameo. And then we'll see something like... Yeah, Bruno Fernandes as the left inside forward, Sesko up front, and then Mainu partnering Casemiro. Or we could see Fernandes deeper and then Amad Diallo, you know, in that front three with Mbeumo and Sesko as well. So yeah, it's definitely a questionable decision. Sherwin says, is starting Gabriel and Haaland a bad idea given that I have Reinders, Dewsbury Hall and Gyökeres on the bench? It's not a bad idea, but my advice would be to start Gyökeres over Gabriel and just go for the attackers that game. Football Fandom says Palmer captain, Foden expected points, start Elliott. That's a lot of different questions, mate. Foster differential versus Forest. Yeah, Sharda differential was a great shout. Palmer is fifth in my Captaincy list. You can see that from earlier. Yeah, even just a few minutes ago. Foden's expected points I haven't seen. We can have a look now using the website Fantasy Football Hub and see what they say, but I don't think it'll be that high. He's not even a guaranteed starter. So yeah, 4.3 isn't too shabby. And based on that, I think they expect him to start, and I also feel that way. Starting Harvey Elliott, yeah, I think he'll start, and is he a good option in FPL for this week? Potentially. He's not someone I'd recommend, though, despite scoring in midweek. But yeah, Foster differential against Forest. Not a bad shout. Richards or Elanga? Tart. Yeah, start Richards or Elanga. I'm going to say Richards, actually. Thoughts on Kevin Sharda as an option? I wasn't really too keen on him last week. Obviously, he scored against Chelsea. It's a very well-taken goal. He could still be on penalties. We'll see how that goes over the coming weeks. But let's not forget, Sharda scored a few hat-tricks last season. So he's not a terrible punt. He cost 7 million for a reason. In this game against Fulham, I don't mind him. I've gone for 3-2 in favour of Fulham, the home side. But I think Brentford could still score multiple goals and create chances there. Ziad says, when will we get Isak? I'll be honest, my priority is Haaland. I'm not too interested in Isak right now. I don't think he'll start this week. He'll probably be off the bench. I'm not ruling out definitively because we saw him start the other day against Atletico, but there's such a quick turnaround. Arne Slot said he felt it and he's going to ease him into the team. So based on those comments and stuff like that, I think Isak will have a cameo as a substitute. So yeah, basically the answer to your question in terms of giving up on Haaland and Salah, not necessarily. And a lot of people will sell Salah to go to Haaland anyway. It all depends on their team structure and how much money they have in the bank. In my situation, to get Haaland, I would need to sell Salah. Let's go back to my FPL team again. And once the deadline closes, I'll show you my FPL challenge squad and chill with the viewers for a little while longer. And let's close in on that record or that milestone, 36,000. We are getting ever so closer. We are 6 away now. So I think in the coming minutes, we will hit 36k. Thank you to all the subscribers, the sharers, likers. Yeah, I can just keep on going on and on. Patrons, members, super chatters, you are massively appreciated. Let's push on towards new goals in the future. 40k will be the goal by the end of the season. Is it risky to captain Kudus? Well, it's risky from the sense that his goal-scoring record is poor. 4 goals last season in the Premier League for West Ham. Hasn't done so this season. But yeah, his record against Brighton is pretty good. I think this could be the time he scores his first Premier League goal for Tottenham. Enzo captain, I wouldn't go there personally, but he has been a decent FPL asset in the last year. Dewsbury Hall, Strand Larsen or Calvert-Lewin and Paqueta. I like Paqueta, actually. Calvert-Lewin has the fixtures. He was a good FPL asset once upon a time, but that was like 4 or 5 years ago when I started making content. I think long-term it'd be Dewsbury Hall and Calvert-Lewin, but with Dewsbury Hall, he's basically someone to be your 8th attacker and mainly be on your bench. Pep rotation incoming. Well, it's possible. They played on Thursday. If they rotate, they still need to put out a very strong squad against Arsenal, otherwise they'll be comfortably beaten. Start Reinders or Eze? I mean, Eze scored the FA Cup winning goal against them, but Reinders is always a decent shout. I'm going to say Eze. There is a chance that Martinelli starts on the left wing after his heroics against Bilbao. But yeah, I'm just about going to go for Eze. Home advantage plays a part. Welcome, Anas. Anonymous says, hey man, bench 2 of Van de Ven, Rodon, Senesi, Reinders, and Ndai. Interesting question. I would bench Reinders And I probably bench Rodon. I'm backing Wolves to score. It will be a low-scoring game, though. Replacement for Brennan Johnson for 7 million. Well, Semenyo is the ideal one, but I'm guessing you mean 7 million and below. So to adhere to that, I'd say Caicedo, which might be a very surprising answer, but he's going to score DEFCON in most matches. And I said this before, by the way, even in yesterday's video, I think Brennan Johnson, if he gets 2 starts out of the next 3 Premier League matches, he could be Tottenham's best attacker in FPL, but the minutes are always going to be a concern now. Play Reinders, Borro or Senesi? I would play Pedro Borro. Wirtz out and Semenyo in? Yes. There is an argument to maybe hold that off for Game Week 6, but ultimately make that transfer sooner rather than later. Carson says who to captain? Yeah, Gyökeres I like. He's just about outside my top 10 list. But Semenyo is my favourite from the lot that you've mentioned. Hi Dylan, Dubravka, King, Senesi, Goodmanson. That's a good bench to be fair. I would consider it actually. Yep. I don't think Strand Larsen starts Ryan. Now, based on Vitor Pereira's comments, he didn't rule it out, but he said he's not going to play 90 minutes, so he could start, get 50, 60, and then get subbed off for Tolu or another player like Menetzi Arias, and they change formation and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Strand Larsen will be on the bench. I have Jose Sarr. Should I start him? I probably would. It depends on your alternative, though. If you've got Alisson Becker, for example, then I'd start Alisson, but it all depends. What would you do with Elanga? There is a chance he starts, but if Jacob Murphy is ready, I think he'll get the nod, and I think Elanga is a sell. Yeah, Declan Rice should start, but would I start him in FPL? Not necessarily. Between Senesi, Cucurella, and Konsa, who to start from those 3? Senesi's the most likely to get DEFCON. Cucurella's the most attacking threat. You could argue Konsa's the best clean sheet odds this week. Villa are second, only behind Liverpool. I'd probably start Cucurella this week. Xavi Simons or Kudus. This week I prefer Kudus. Long-term, Xavi Simons is my favourite. It all depends on what you're looking for. So if you're wildcarding in 6, I'd go for Kudus as a 1-week punt. Hey Dylan, what are your thoughts on removing Kudus for Semenyo and Murillo for Richards? Long-term, looks incredible. I like those moves. But selling Kudus this week could backfire, in my opinion. He's got a good record against Brighton, as some people have mentioned. Captain Palmer or Haaland? Palmer's 5th, Haaland's 6th in my Captaincy list, so I would lean towards Palmer. Yeah, Xavi Simons shout, he was covered in my Transfers podcast. I'll show you that, by the way, now, for those that maybe didn't see the video. So you can see here a few things are out of date in terms of the ownership figures and prices. Semenyo now costs 7.6 and stuff like that, but one of my purchase suggestions was Xavi Simons. Maybe this week is not the ideal time to do so. He might even get benched for Brennan Johnson. Just bear that in mind. But these were my classifications for every single player. Some of them are going to be the most transferred in or transferred out. With Murillo, though, this is maybe more of a sell now based on the injury update we got yesterday. I think Kirkes is a sell. If he starts, he could get a clean sheet against Everton, but you can find much better value at the same price tag. But yeah, all of these were covered on Monday in that Transfers podcast. Zubimendi could go up in price, by the way, to 5.5. One player to add to the watch list is Nick Waldemada, who is one of the most transferred in players this week. His ownership was 1.9% at the time of that recording on Monday. So yeah, hopefully you've got the whole package there in terms of the week content. This can be seen as an ultimate guide for Fantasy Premier League. I'm going to end this poll, and Konsa has won with 35%. Reinders is second, Gabriel third, and Reinildo Mandava is last with 10% of the vote. My last poll, I believe, before the deadline closes, will be about the goalkeepers. Dubravka versus Robert Sanchez. This will be a very relevant poll for a lot of people. So, which goalkeeper would you start? Let's put Sanchez and Dubravka. Obviously, some people watching will have different goalkeepers, I get that, but this could also be relevant in other situations, maybe with a Burnley or Chelsea defender like Tosin against the Stev as well. So let's go to this. We do have 127 likes, I appreciate those. Let's get to 200 before the end of the stream, and let's also get to 36k, which might have already been achieved already. We're 2 away now, so thank you very much. We're going to hit it any moment now, and we only hit 35,000 last week. Chris Wood is second in my Captaincy list, Black Shadow. So if you don't have Salah, it's a genuine consideration. The minutes aren't secure, though. I think you'll probably get 60 or 70 minutes. I don't see him getting much more than that, to be fair. Let's see if there are any members who put a message. I don't want to leave you hanging. I think I see one here. Thank you, Barath. I'll see you very soon, and good luck for Game Week 5. Yeah, I think Caicedo is a better FPL option than Declan Rice, yeah. Yeah, now it's going to be less than 6. But make sure to lock in your teams. Don't leave anything to chance. Start the players you want to, and also make sure you've got the right captain. Bench order is very important. And don't forget the vice captaincy. A few times this season, I've seen people vice captain the goalkeeper, and it might have turned out okay, but you want to also make sure your vice captain is on your second favourite option for the armband this week as well. Yeah, Palm over Bruno is definitely the preference for me, but there's also a difference in price of 1.4 million. Hi Dylan, is double Burnley defence, Jiff and Rangers worth a bench boost? I'd probably say no. It's not a terrible bench boost. It can score over 10 points, but I would lean towards no. King or Esteve to start? I'd go for King. Who to captain, Haaland, Ekitike or Semenyo? My preference is Semenyo. He is third in my captaincy list, only behind Chris Wood in second and Salah in first. Start Reinders, Tarkowski or Diouf? In this case, I'd go for Reinders. Start Elliot Anderson or Rodgers? Rodgers. Who to get in for Elanga and Sarr out? Ideally, Semenyo and Caicedo. Your prediction for the highest scoring game this week? Fulham 3, Brentford 2. I'll go through that once the deadline has passed. By the way, a massive shout out to Paredes for gifting 5 memberships. So you've done a lot for the channel, mate. So it's very much appreciated. So to the likes of ZZ Grom, Josh, Markichu, Qureshi, and then Kevin1234, enjoy the memberships for an entire month. That means you get early access to my content. You can also get exclusive access to my teams at times for UCL Fantasy and FPL, and you will know anything I do in terms of transfers and stuff like that. And the same goes for priority reply to comments in the live streams and videos. That'll be particularly useful for UCL Fantasy, which, imagine the people that are in now, which I appreciate. It's like even more in those Champions League streams, and it's very hectic to say the least. So thank you to Paredes and to all the new members. 5 minutes to deadline, 5 members to channel. Let's go and have a great game week, everyone. Cheers, Dylan. Cheers to you, Paredes. Your contributions to the channel are massively appreciated, and we are basically hitting 36k subscribers now, and people like you have played a big part. So thank you very much, and all the best of luck for Game Week 5 and the rest of the season. Joao Pedro is my vice. Good option. He's 8th in my list, I believe. He could easily be higher with a solid record against Man United. Johnson could start for Spurs. I wouldn't rule it out. I have got Xavi Simons in that lineup. We'll see how that goes. Thank you, John. And also to Paredes, I have to say that. But thank you, John, as well. And yeah, to everyone else who has been tuning in today. Thank you, ZZ Grum. No worries. And like I said, Paredes is the man. Will Kirkes play? It's not a guarantee. I've got him in my lineup, but Robertson obviously scored in midweek against Atletico, and Kirkes was subbed off early against Burnley, so definitely not a guarantee there, but I'm going to go for him there. Thank you, Gary. I'm not going to say the first part, but let's go, Dylan. Thank you very much. Don't forget to sort out your subs rank. Yes. Now, I've got Reinders first, Gabriel second, Reinildo third. It's probably going to stick that way, and I'm going to start Konsa. Yeah, I think that's how I'll end up with my FPL team. I did have a dream about Gabriel getting a big return. He was on 8 points at half-time. Yeah, I think he got an assist or something, and I don't know what I was dreaming about. But yeah, if Arsenal win and stuff like that, I'll take it all day long. Pick 1, Kirkes, Senesi, Saliba. I take the chance on Kirkes, I would. And yeah, just hope he gets 60-plus minutes. I think Liverpool are the most likely to keep a clean sheet this week. Yes, exactly that, Gary. I'm relatively locked in myself. Sanchez is winning this vote quite comfortably. I thought Dubravka might actually win it, but I was wrong about that. Start Reinders, Gabriel, or Ndai? Ndai. That's what I'm going for right now. Senesi or Frimpong? I don't have Frimpong in my predicted 11. He's got the highest ceiling, but Senesi is a bit safer. I'm going to say Senesi. Rumours say Bradley and Ekitike start. Yeah, I saw one lineup with Bradley in it, but I'm tired of predicting Bradley to start and him just not really being anywhere near the conversation. Pick 1 to start, Isak, Elliot Anderson, Senesi, Dan Burn. I mean, if you got Isak, you'd be very tempted to give him the start there, but Senesi's the safest pick. I'd probably go for Isak. He could definitely score off the bench. And what a way to score your first Liverpool goal, by the way, in the Merseyside derby. I could see that happening. Start Estev or Gabriel. Probably Gabriel still. It's a difficult one, though, because it's similar to the Raya Dubravka situation, and I did suggest to some people starting Dubravka. So from that perspective, I mean, with Gabriel, you can score or get a goal from a set piece and stuff like that, and bonus points. Defcon is a possibility. I'm going to say Gabriel here. It's a little bit different. Captain Haaland or Pedro. Haaland is slightly higher in my Captaincy list. Or just going for Nguka. Oh, yes, I'm not going to say that. I mean, I already said the first word, which might be a swear word or something in a different language. Hopefully not JL, but we'll see. Gabriel play or Cons on the bench. I'm going to stick with Cons. The deadline has gone anyway. But yeah, honestly, I'll take it now. Arsenal to win. Gabriel, Monster Hall on my bench. Whatever. It is what it is. Appreciate your work. You did great work with UCL Fantasy too. Thank you, Eddie. And yes, time to bounce back after a bit of a disappointing start. I did get over 80 points, but there were some missed opportunities there. And once the deadline passed, I already had one regret of, one Fabian defender not going for him in the end, and that already resulted in losing 10 plus points. So yeah, match day 2 will be the time to bounce back and rise up the rankings. I think last season, even though I got like 121 points, I was still not in the best of ranks anyway. But match day 2 and 3 resulted in a massive rank rise in Green Arrow. Rob says bench boosting Dubravka, Joao Pedro, Paqueta and Goodmanson this week. I mean, that's a good bench on paper, but I'm wondering who you've got in your 11 to bench Joao Pedro. Hey buddy, start Van der Ven or Murillo. I would have started Murillo just in case, but there's a chance he doesn't even get any minutes whatsoever this week. And just have Van der Ven first on the bench. Yeah, that is what I would have done. Arthur says I captain Rodgers. Hopefully he returns. The same goes for Watkins. I'll take that all day long. Yeah, top 10 captaincy list. I have gone through it a few times, Justin. So we'll go through that one last time since the deadline has already passed anyway. This is what I've gone for. Salah top, Chris Wood second, Semenyo in third. I think between 4th and 10th is basically anyone's game. Gyökeres is also knocking on the door. But I've got Gakpo in 4th, Palmer, Haaland, Ekitike, Joao Pedro, Mateta and Watkins in that order. I'll also go through my scoreline predictions one last time. And after that, I'll show you my FPL challenge team as things stand. But I've gone for Liverpool 2, Everton 0, Brighton 2, Tottenham 2, Burnley 1, Nottingham Forest 2. The same scoreline for Crystal Palace, who would win that game in my prediction. Wolves 1, Leeds 0, Manchester United 1, Chelsea 1, Fulham 3, Brentford 2, Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 1, Sunderland 0, Aston Villa 1, and Arsenal 2, Man City 1. Let's now go to FPL Challenge. I also went through my predicted lineups earlier. There are some murmurings of Bradley starting, others saying Frimpong, and then others saying Szoboszlai. It's anyone's guess at this point. But let's go to this different fantasy format where I did very well last week. I've got Alisson in goal with Van Dijk and Salah to triple up on Liverpool in this new challenge this week of any Merseyside derby player scoring double the number of points. And I'm going all in on the Reds. Semenyo, Chris Wood and Mateta complete this 11. There is an unlimited budget, so I could go for Erling Haaland and either jinx him or get some points in the process. So that could also take the place of one of Chris Wood or Jean-Philippe Mateta. Yeah, good luck as well, Sudindra. Same goes to Genius Gamer, John, and Awali. And yeah, a big shout out to everyone. I'm pretty sure we've hit 36,000. Maybe I look like an absolute mug, but yeah, thank you for all the support in the last month. Not even just that, the last week we've hit over 1,000 subscribers, which is greatly appreciated. So that's another goal ticked off. Let's now push on towards 37k, and 40,000 will be the next big objective. Stay tuned for a reaction stream. It's very likely there will be one tonight. If not, it'll be tomorrow, but I think more people tune in and they like to see it on a Saturday night. It's a bit of a different time to stream, and it's also more chill, even though a lot of people tune in anyway. So that could be a nice way to celebrate 40,000, sorry, I wish, 36,000 subscribers. Yeah, 40k will be the next big objective. So let's just have a quick look at the timings and see what we could do. There is a game at 8 PM, which is a bit awkward. We had the same thing happen last week. It was also with Brentford when they were facing Chelsea. This time they're facing another West London club in Fulham. But yeah, if people want to see a bit of a watch along and also stream at around 7, 8 p.m., that could be a possibility. So it would be straight after the United Chelsea game, and we could see what happens in Fulham Brentford. But that's a possibility that I'm considering. I captain Wirtz. Crazy move, but I believe in it. Well, Wirtz played well against Atletico. I know Salah was the standout in that game, but yeah, I think Wirtz will have a good chance of scoring his first Liverpool goal. The same goes for Isak. I think one of them will get that very important goal and winner against Everton. It's just a question of who, to be honest. But yeah, they can't all return at the same time alongside Salah, Gakpo and Ekitike, as good as that attacking line is. Yeah, Transfer Locks is easy. All the best. Football Fandom says, thanks, Dylan. Top stream as always. You're currently my favourite FPL creator, tied with Focal. I appreciate that. Obviously, that's very high praise. And all the best to you for Gameweek 5 and beyond. Punjabi says, locked and loaded. Yes. And hopefully the points are also incoming. Gakpo and Van Dijk scored their first in the derby, so maybe Isak will do it. And also Wirtz. Maybe both of them will do it. Maybe it comes in twos when it comes to Liverpool. Surendra says, decided to sell Murillo to Senesi, started Sanchez and benched Dubravka, Estev, plus I captain Semenyo. Kind of nervous this game week, but I hope I'll do well. And I'm not surprised by your next comment. I completely get that. It's going to be a good game. I'm just hoping Arsenal get the job done and then can push Liverpool all the way. But City are going to be a title contender irrespective of what happens this weekend. Past deadline, but I can still make subs and transfers. This app is weird. I'll have a look. Of course we'll have a look. Not the best McManaman impersonation, but there you go. Let's see if you're onto something here. Yeah, for me it says the app is currently updating, or the game is. So yeah, I think it locked in shortly after you said that, maybe. So yeah. Okay, let's go for a few more questions. Thanks and good luck, Dylan. Thank you very much, Justin. I didn't want Estev coming in for Murillo because I'm starting Chris Wood. I completely get that. The only good thing about it is that if Burnley keep a clean sheet and get a big victory, Estev can get DEFCON and that could be a nice 8-pointer headed your way. Yeah, Forest could draw. I've just gone for a narrow win. They've lost the last 2 games. They really should have sealed that Swansea game. They were 2-0 up. I think they'll get the job done this weekend. I've seen a lot of people predict a Burnley result, and I think that's a possibility, but I'm backing Forest to get the victory, and hopefully Chris Wood is the main goal scorer. I'm wildcarding in Matchday 2 in UCL Fantasy. Went with punts in Matchday 1. Yeah, similar to me, mate, in terms of the strategy and the points, but I'm still quite disappointed. Maybe because I typically start Matchday 1 very well. I mean, yeah, last season was obviously an incredible start, but ultimately, you shouldn't be looking at rank too much at this stage, but you always want to get off to the best possible, start and build that platform for future match days. But yeah, the Matchday 2 wildcard, I know some people are criticizing it, and I get it, but it's still a very good strategy on paper, which I discussed in my chip strategy guide for UCL Fantasy. Very good score there, Riche. Yeah, we'll see about that, Football Fandom. It's a possibility today. So watching the Fulham Brentford game, and that's the match I highlighted as the highest scoring this week. So that would be a pretty decent one to watch along and also answer some questions in the process. Liverpool 2, Everton 0, Brighton 2, Spurs 1. Hopefully you're right about that. Forest 1, Burnley 0, West Ham 1, Palace 1. The same goes for Wolves Leeds. United 1, Chelsea 2, Fulham 2, Brentford 1. Interesting. Mina says, hey Dylan, when you wildcard, which premium combo would you lean towards? Haaland and Salah, Haaland with Palmer and Gyökeres, or Salah with Palmer and Gyökeres? Well, all of them look really enticing. My favourite long-term, though, would be Haaland, Palmer and Gyökeres, because it's not just about that. It's about who you have instead of Salah. That could be Semenyo, for example, and I think that's the best for your 50-man squad overall. So I would lean towards the Palmer, Haaland and Gyökeres route. Easy puts his predictions. Liverpool 2, Everton 1, Spurs 2, Brighton 1, Forest 1-0, 3-0 Palace, 1-1 in the Wolves-Leeds game, Chelsea 3-1, Fulham 2-1, 1-1 in the Bournemouth-Newcastle game, Sunderland 1, Villa 0, Arsenal 2, City 2. Yeah, not a big fan of that, but let's see. Plus, congrats on 36k. Thank you very much. Yes, 40,000 will be the next big goal. By the end of the year would be amazing, by the way. I believe we hit 30,000 just before Christmas last season. So, yeah, this time of year between September to December is kind of like the biggest growth for the channel. So yeah, I'll be looking to capitalize on that and going to 40,000 by the end of the year. Yeah, mine is updating. Same here, mate. Dylan Verts can't keep going on like this, can it? Well, it can. Yeah, as you say in that message there. Latina says Alan is cooked. I've gone for Gabriel and Raya. Regrets already. Well, I'm guessing you're a Liverpool fan. Maybe in the back of your mind, you're looking to jinx Arsenal. I kind of do that with Liverpool at times. You either get points or jinx them. So either way, you're kind of happy with the result. Ultimately, we want FPL points, right? Yeah, doubling up on the Arsenal defense against City. It's a bold move. They are third in the clean sheet odds this week, only behind Villa, who are in second, and obviously Liverpool are top against Everton at home. Thoughts on wildcard now? Yeah, Gameweek 6 is definitely a possibility. I'm more keen on that than Gameweek 5, for example, where Haaland has Arsenal away. Obviously, now he's going to have Burnley at home. That looks much more enticing, but I'm looking at Gameweek 8, actually, for my wildcard. That's the most likely, and I usually wildcard around Gameweek 7 or 8. But yeah, 6 is definitely looking decent. Sarr, Ndiaye, and Reinders expected to drop. The thing is with Ndiaye, though, I wouldn't actually mind keeping him on a wildcard, which I discussed in that video a few days ago, but yeah, the other two are certainly sellable, that's for sure. Spain will boycott the World Cup in 2026. I'm not sure where you got that from, but Spain are one of the favourites to win it. I very much doubt they're going to boycott the World Cup. Is Sancho a good choice? No. No. I think Harvey Elliott would be more appealing. I think Sancho will be a substitute. Captain Palmer, I'm not too confident, but fingers crossed. Yeah, he did score a hat-trick against them a few years ago, but that was at the Bridge. At Old Trafford, I don't think he's actually gotten big returns there. He might have scored once. Or maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly. I think that was at Anfield where he scored. But yeah, Cole Palmer, he's fifth in my list. He's a good option for the captaincy, but for me, besides Salah, everything else is very much up in the air. Waiting for Liverpool dramatic win. Well, it can't keep going on like this, can it? Well, it can. Look, Liverpool have that sort of ability, a bit like Ferguson's United teams over the years, of just persevering until the very end. You got to give them credit for the mentality and, you know, never giving up. I just don't think it's sustainable. Against Burnley and Atletico, they deserve to win, so you can't really complain about those results. I think the Arsenal game was a 0-0 draw, in my opinion, but a moment of magic decided it, so fair play. Newcastle and Bournemouth should have been draws, in my opinion, and arguably Newcastle could have been a loss, even against 10 men. So Liverpool didn't perform that well on the night, but got the job done. Yeah, reaction stream tonight is possible. More people like to tune in on Saturday, so that's a real possibility. And then tomorrow, there could be a recording for transfer tips and stuff like that. But yeah, that is definitely an idea and a way to celebrate 36,000 being achieved. If Palmer scores 4 tonight, would be madness. As bad as United are, they rarely get battered in the big games. I think with City as well, they were quite in it until, you know, the first goal went in, then it opened the floodgates, but I think it'll be lower scoring. Chelsea have the edge, of course. If I'm backing a winner, it would be the Blues, but I think United could get a result, and they need to get some, otherwise Ruben Amorim will be out of the door. Okay, I wasn't actually aware of that, Easy. I wasn't aware of that. That would be quite surprising, actually. It's a Leverkusen thing. Yes. Maybe Florian Wirtz has, you know, been signed for 130 million or 115 million to give them the juju. Football Fandom says, I can still make changes, I swear. Maybe it's because the app was in recently used and I didn't refresh. Yeah, maybe. But once you go to make a change, it might just refresh the page or the app that way. Dylan, I have a strange fact. I did see this, by the way, a few days ago. James Trafford is taller than Donnarumma. Trafford is 197 centimeters and Donnarumma is 196. That is insane. I just think Donnarumma has a bigger physical presence. He's a bit bulkier and he covers more of the goal. And it's also aura thing, or Laura, if you want to say. I don't like that term. But yeah, Donnarumma, he is one of the best penalty savers in the world. He's such a presence. I think he's going to be a big difference maker. If it was Trafford in goal or Edison, I'd actually be leaning towards like a 3-1, 4-1 Arsenal or something. But with Donnarumma, I think it's going to be lower scoring and he's going to make some big saves like he did for PSG in the Champions League semi-finals. Shout out to Cabo Verde. Is that Cape Verde? One position away from qualifying to the 2026 World Cup. Yes, I mean, we could see a few surprise, you know, debutants in the World Cup. It's a shame Venezuela didn't make it. Hopefully, well, there is a chance that Bolivia get I don't know, some action taken against them. I don't think that'll happen, but yeah, I think Venezuela fumbled it in the last game, unfortunately. And they had an Argentinian manager who just didn't do the job. Some of European nations also trying to boycott, but not as big as Spain right now. Yeah, that would be the main headline, of course. That obviously would be massive. Yeah, I'm not going to get too much into politics and stuff like that, but I mean, Russia were immediately banned. That's all I'm saying. Twister Parky says, I changed to Dubravka, Virgil van Dijk, Senesi, Rodon, Paqueta, Caicedo, Salah, Semenyo, Strand Larsen, Pedro, Haaland, Raya, Tosin, Van der Ven, King on the bench. So King and Paqueta for Dewsbury Hall and Rangers. I like that for this week, and Paqueta's a good option at 5.9. Yeah. Dewsbury Hall and Rangers is still a decent pairing long term, but I would be tempted to switch one of them to Caicedo. Yeah, I'm not really a person who likes focusing on aura, mate. I just found it funny. Hi, Dylan. Just captain Anthony from Burnley. Most of my 11 face each other. Should I use my chip next week? Triple captain on Haaland in 6 will be very popular, and I think it's a very good strategy. So, yeah, wildcard in 6 is also a decent time to use it for some people, but yeah, I think triple captain Haaland is the way. Captaining Anthony is a bold, bold call. He has been Burnley's best FPL player, but I wouldn't captain him, to be quite honest with you. Bat says, I'll call you Bat or Batman, I had Haaland, Reinders and Dye and Tarkovsky were the worst fixtures of the season, so I used a free hit. The thing is, though, Haaland can still score against Arsenal. He did it last year in the 5-1, or last season. Reinders is still capable of returns. In Dye and Tarkovsky against Liverpool, I get that. You know, you're getting rid of 4 players with ugly fixtures away from home against 2 of the best teams in the country and Europe. But Tarkovsky can still get DEFCON and give you 2 free points anyway, which isn't great, but it's better than 0 or 1. I'm not a big fan of the free hit this week. I was actually looking at making a free hit video, and I just didn't like the free hit at all, to be honest. What I'm going to do here quickly is tell you what I had on my free hit. So just give me a second. Because I did have the image here somewhere. I did have that ready for a potential free hit video. So my rough free hit team was something like Sells in goal, Van Dijk, Milenkovic and Lacroix in that defensive line, and doubling up on Forest is certainly debatable. You might even consider starting a Wolves defender or Jose Sarr in goal and targeting that Wolves clean sheet. I've gone for Semenyo, Salah, Gakpo and Bruno Fernandes in the midfield with Chris Wood, Mateta and Joao Pedro up front. But ideally, you would stretch Fernandes to Palmer. In order to do that, it might require downgrading another player there. But yeah, I've gone for something like that, and I'm just not a big fan of the free hit in Gameweek 5 personally. Hopefully it goes well for you, and you gain a lot of points from the chip. Everyone's situation is different. Donnarumma looks better than himself in PSG. It's early days, of course, but yeah, he made some big saves against United, and he's going to help City keep a lot of clean sheets. So that's why I think City will be in the title race. I think they'll finish in the top 3 alongside Arsenal and Liverpool, but hopefully not in first. Latino Dialect says, bro, Dylan, lately I've been listening to Argentinian reggaeton and I found it crazy how dirty the lyrics are, and it's mainstream down there, like kids are listening to this. The thing is, though, a lot of reggaeton has lyrics like that, not just Argentinian, but yeah, look, for me personally, I don't really like listening to the modern reggaeton. I like the kind of maybe older school one. The same goes for most music, to be honest, and my favourite genres are rock and stuff like that, so kind of British music. I think that's where the best ones can be found. So Wirtz is benched. We've already got some big news. I got that wrong, so yeah. For those that maybe were asking, should I sell Wirtz to Semenyo? I did say yes, but I didn't expect Wirtz to be benched. I won't lie to you. That is a massive shock to the system. Wow. For Liverpool to bench 115 million pound player. Wow. That is goes to show you how football is nowadays. Let's get Liverpool's starting 11. And is Frimpong starting? No, he's not. Okay, so I've gotten 10 out of 11 correct when it comes to Liverpool. Let's get them up nice and early. And just for reference, by the way, so you can see that I'm not pulling the wool over your ears, let's just play these predicted lineups one last time as I get the Liverpool lineups on screen. And also Everton's. Let's not forget the Toffees. Up the Toffees! Come on, James. That's probably his best contribution to British football. So yeah, Mikalenko's back, and he was in my bloody predicted lineup yesterday. But I did say if he's fit, he's going to start. So I'm going to count that, right, as 11 out of 11. But yeah, let's go through the lineups now. Yeah, I'm just going to end it at Liverpool, which will be the predicted lineup. And yeah, like I said, Garner, Mikalenko, that was always a headache for me. And Mikalenko does start as covered in yesterday's video. Let me know in the live chat, does that count or not? Because, like I said, if he's fit, he's going to start. But yeah, always a difficult one to predict. Wirtz is benched though. We're going to go to that right now. So, no, Liverpool have the link. So it's Alisson in goal, Van Dijk, Kanate, Kirke, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Salah, Bradley, Gakpo, Ekitike, and Gravenberch. So that's 9 out of 11 correct for the Liverpool lineup there. So Bradley right back, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, midfield 3 it could be, and then Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike up front. Let's go to Everton. Pickford, O'Brien, Keane, Tarkowski, Mikalenko, Idrissa Gana Gay, and Ghana. In Dye, Dewsbury Hall, Grealish, and Beto. So I'm just claiming 11 out of 11 for Everton, but for Liverpool, that's 9 out of 11, which is Laylock. It is ugly. It is Yeah, Ekitike starting is not a surprise to me. The biggest one is Wirtz on the bench. That is a big shock. What to do with Sarr? I rolled my transfer so I can get to Haaland and Semenyo next game week. Do you think he starts in game week 6? Are you really asking me if Haaland starts in game week 6? Yeah, I think so. The time where I think City could rotate is against Huddersfield in midweek. So yeah, Haaland and Semenyo, brilliant transfers. I'd highly recommend that. I'm just wondering who you're selling to facilitate it. Probably Salah. But yeah, people are already reacting to the Wirtz benching. Twister Parky says, King Eric Cantona, still the king. He showed this on the stage. I think I know what you're on about there, yeah. So yeah, thank you, Punjabi. If Wirtz played poorly this whole season, do you think Liverpool will do with him? Well, they're not going to sell him. He's still one of the most coveted midfielders in world football. He's only 22 years old. But look, if you cost that much money, you're expected to be a difference maker in a title race and also to win trophies. Yeah, he'll be considered a flop at the moment. But look at Modric, for example, after his first season with Madrid. I think Marca voted him as the worst signing. And then look what he went on to do with Los Blancos. I missed it to make my FPL Challenge team this week. You haven't, actually. With FPL Challenge, the deadline is different. You can still make changes up until every single match starts. So with Liverpool, you can see who starts or not and then make changes accordingly. Got Wirtz bench. There goes my team even before the games start. Yeah, one of my best decisions this season, and I haven't made many great ones, is starting with Gakpo over Wirtz. But the Dutchman could be subbed off before 60 minutes. We saw that against Atletico Madrid this week. Yeah, no Frimpong. Yeah. Don't be surprised that Wirtz is benched. He has been poor. I don't know. I still think it's surprising, to be honest, mate. Especially with Frimpong not starting as well. Just looking for differentials. You playing EAFC 26? I'm not playing EAFC at the moment. Am I going to rule out? Maybe not. But I didn't get the last edition, and I'm very happy for it. It saved me a lot of, a lot of stress. Thank you, Bood. If that's the case, big up to Andy. Much appreciated. Wirtz bench, Kirkes, Bradley, Ekitike all start. Yes. What a shock, actually. I mean, I got a 9 out of 11 correct when it comes to Liverpool. Should I bring in Palmer for Salah? If that's also part of buying Erling Haaland next week, then yes. Otherwise, I'd consider keeping Salah for now. Yeah, thank you, Twister Parky. That was one of my big surprises there. I should have started Elliot Anderson over Wirtz. I'll be honest, though, with Elliot Anderson, he's more of a DEFCON player, and he's going to get that more often in tougher games like Arsenal away, as opposed to Burnley. But yeah, of course, the chance of scoring or assisting will be higher. Isak, Wirtz, and Frimpong on the bench. So yeah, let's go back to that. I didn't actually read out... did I... Oh, no, sorry, I'm being an idiot. Let's go to Liverpool's 11 here. So on the bench, there is Frimpong there. So he's not missing out completely. So yeah, Joe Gomez, Endo, Wirtz, Isak, Jones, Robertson, Frimpong, and Rio. That's a very good bench for Liverpool. Their squad depth might not be as good on paper than Arsenal's, but it's still a very good 50-man... Well, I say 50-man squad. It's not FPL, you idiot. It's a very good squad overall there for Liverpool. A lot of good options on the bench. Obviously, when you're benching the likes of Wirtz, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'll leave that up for a little while longer. Obviously, Liverpool is the big talking point with Everton. A big return there for Mikalenko. So yeah, I'm claiming 11 out of 11 for Everton. Let me know what you think of that. But yeah, that was discussed in my predicted lineups yesterday. But yeah, with Liverpool, what does that take my total now to? Is it 50 out of 55? Or maybe it's 49. 49, undefeated. Thank you for answering. My free was pretty much the same, but I went for Palmer and took a chance on Hwang Hee-chan. That's probably slightly better, to be fair. I would prefer Palmer over Bruno Fernandes this week. Salah and Mateta to Palmer and Gyökeres. I like the players you're bringing in, but I'm not sure about that, to be quite honest with you. To be honest with Salah, I'd only sell him if you're buying Erling Haaland in the process, and in an ideal world, I'd be buying Palmer and Haaland. But in my situation, I need to take a -8 hit and sell Gabriel to Senesi, which isn't too shabby, but I don't want to sell Arsenal defenders. I thought Donnarumma was man of the match in the semis against us. The Arsenal, yeah, I agree. He was the difference maker. As good as David Raya has been for Arsenal, he made some good saves in those matches as well. Yeah, I think Donnarumma was the difference maker. Thank you, Ahmad. Very much appreciated. Mad respect to you, Dylan. It's official now, my favourite FPL creator. That's very high praise from you, and hopefully I can deliver throughout the season for FPL and UCL Fantasy. So cheers, Ahmed, and hopefully we can tune in for the rest of the season. Yeah, I get that. If you've got an expensive asset in FPL who's benched, it's not a good way to start the week. I get that. I'm definitely not going to gloat, that's for sure. I was so close to buying Florian Wirtz. My decision going into Gameweek 1 actually was Wirtz and Van de Ven, or Borro and Gakpo. So it hasn't been like a clear win for me. Yeah, if I went for Van de Ven over Borro, that would have been a very good start, actually, when it comes to those two. Oh, sorry, he was asking about Sarr starting Gameweek 6. Yeah, no, sorry, I completely misread that. Yeah, Ismaila Sarr could be available against Liverpool. That's the kind of prognosis we got. So it isn't a bad shout now. For those that still have Sarr, he might even be worth keeping. He has scored against Liverpool in the past, but yeah, I'd still be tempted to go Semenyo if possible. Hoping Frimpong comes off the bench to assist like last Gameweek. It could certainly happen. He's got one of the highest ceilings of any defender. Yeah, the deadline was over a while ago. I'm going to change my timer, by the way. I've already showed this lineup quite a lot. So let's bring up the live chat. There you go. Yeah, 26 minutes ago at 11 AM in the UK, the deadline passed. So yeah, some people were reporting that they could still make transfers, or, you know, it wasn't fully locked in on the app, but it was for me. Bench boost in the bin. It's still early days. The bench boost can still work well, but I did say to a lot of people, from my perspective, it could be better used later in the season. Yeah, sorry, Mina. But yeah, thanks to Ahmed as well for clarifying, and apologies for getting that wrong. Yeah, I think Ismaila Sarr, if I'm predicting now, I think he will start. Yeah. Tustapaki says, I changed to Dubravka, Virgil van Dijk, Senesi, Rodon, Paqueta, Caicedo, Salah, Semenyo, Strand Larsen, Joao Pedro, Haaland, Raya, Tosin, Van de Ven, King. Yeah, it looks really good overall. So you made a few changes on your wildcard. It's an awkward time to use this chip and the free hit, but it can still work very well for you, and I really hope it does. I'm very happy with most of those picks, to be fair. So yeah, Erling Haaland is the way forward. And you've got Salah as well, which is a bit of a difference maker, actually. Captain Palmer instead of Salah today. Well, yeah, if you've got a feeling Salah will blank, then yeah, go for your gut. He's also got the Gandhi curse potentially kicking in. I've got Palmer 5th in my list, Salah 1st, so I'm always going to back Salah there. I didn't watch too much of the Liverpool game, to be honest, but I heard Isak had a fairly decent appearance, you know, different. I think he also helped to get the best out of Wirtz, or a better performance out of him. But yeah, I think the main kind of takeaways there was Salah. His XGI was almost 2, and he was the clear standout from that match. But yeah, I think Isak was okay, but he definitely didn't have the fitness to play more than 60 minutes. I need a Gakpo brace and Salah blank. I'll take a Gakpo brace, but I'll also take a Salah brace as well. In an ideal world, that would happen and Everton win with Ndiaye scoring a hat-trick, but yeah, let me just wake up. 1Z Celsius says, I would have sold Wirtz this week if 8 Nuri and De Kuyper were not injured. Yeah, sometimes when luck goes against you like that, it can cause a domino effect, and that's why I sometimes say decisions, you know, and skill do take up a part of FPL and UCL fantasy, but a lot of it does come down to luck at the end of the day. I played Ndoye over Enzo, having Cucurella as well from Chelsea. Yeah, that makes sense. Enzo Fernandez could score against Man United, but yeah, Ndoye has the highest ceiling on paper. Yeah, look, I said this many weeks ago. I think Wirtz is a clear sell, but I felt against one of Arsenal, Burnley or Everton, he would score his first Premier League goal, and he could still do it off the bench. Let's not forget that, but it's not good at this moment in time. For the first time, 3 Malaysian players in EAFC 26. That's very good, actually. I like the Malaysian Grand Prix in F1, a bit of an unrelated topic, but I hope they bring that back one day. But I think you mentioned that it's not possible. Is the deadline over? Yes, mate, yes. Please help with the challenge team. I can go back to that one last time. That's my current setup. I've got Van Dijk, Alisson, and Salah. Any Liverpool or Everton player will have their points doubled. I've got Semenyo, Chris, and Mateta completing this setup. I might make a change and go for something like Palmer or Haaland, maybe even both of them. But I think this triple up in Liverpool is quite locked in. Thank you, Captain Ahmed. Hello from Egypt, brother. What's your opinions on Dango for tonight? I think he'll start. Obviously, he was benched against Chelsea. That was more of a opposition sort of move. You know, changing the tactics and formation based on who they're up against. I think he'll get back into that starting lineup on the right-hand side, and he's got a good chance of scoring. I think it'll be a high-scoring affair between Fulham and Brentford. I've gone for 3-2 in favour of the home side. Someone will triple captain a player that will not be talked about. It happens every single game, to be honest. It might be on a second or third account as well, so I'm always a bit dubious when it comes to these. Oh, wow, you got over 100 points. You triple captained Josh Colling and he scored like a brace. Well done, but yeah, it's probably a second or third account in most cases. Foden or Semenyo, I already have Ivanosim. Semenyo is by far the better option long term. He's more nailed on. He's on penalties when Cliver isn't on the pitch. Foden might start against Arsenal, and I think he will, but there's no guarantee he does against Burnley. Now, in my opinion, Man City will do their rotation in the Carabao Cup against Huddersfield, but Foden is never guaranteed to start nowadays. Prem top 4 goalkeepers for me: Alisson, Donnarumma, Raya, Vicario. I agree with the top 3. I'd still put Emi Martinez in there just because he is the best international goalkeeper, one of the best of all time. I think he's better than Vicario. So yeah, it'd be Alisson, Donnarumma, Raya, Emi Martinez, probably in that order as well. If it's, you know, for Argentina and in the international stage, I think Emi's the best. But yeah, I think that's a fair top 4 list. Xavi Simons seems like a good pick for the next week onwards. Yes, he could be benched this weekend though. Keep an eye out for that. And Brennan Johnson could get 1 or 2 starts over the next 3 matches. And if he does, he could be a brilliant option in the short term. Can't believe I played Verts, typical FPL, 1 point incoming instead of the usual 2. To be fair though, he could still score off the bench. I'm still getting that sort of feeling from him, but yeah, obviously the confidence plummets, not just with him, but your overall FPL team. There is still a long way to go. We haven't even kicked off the Merseyside derby yet. Let's give it a chance, but I'm not going to lie to you, it doesn't look good at this moment in time. FPL though, and football can be like that. Liverpool score most goals at the end of matches, so maybe I should be happy that Vert should play that. Play then probably with Isak. Yeah, look, that's a really good point actually, which I didn't mention. FPL Blue Army says, I am back. Welcome back to the channel, mate. Yeah, Sar's back in training and he'll be available. Yeah, I saw him last week. Sorry, I saw him this week for Antoine Semenyo, but yeah, it was technically almost a week ago. It was after the Gameweek 4 deadline passed and before the Saturday night price changes when Semenyo went up to 7.5 million at the time. So yeah, I think for those with Ismail Assar, he could be worth holding on to, and he's got a decent record against Liverpool. Easy says, wait until Verts comes on in the last minute and scores a goal. Hopefully not, but obviously from an FPL perspective, for those that obviously are getting the bench pain, I do wish you the best, but I just don't want Liverpool to win the game, to be honest. Just saying. Elazar says, I benched Gakpo because of the Gandhi curse. Yeah, look, I know the Gandhi curse is a thing. I wouldn't bench a player like Gakpo because of it, or go away from Salah as a captain just because of a Gandhi curse. I mean, Salah's the only one who can break that, and Gakpo's home record is really impressive. It's impossible right now to go for F1 here. Budget. F1 won 170 million. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a very good circuit, though. One of my favorites back in the day. Is that Chetri, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Indonesia? Oh, okay. Whoa, what is this? Let's not... Whoa, let's keep it civil. If I'm interpreting your message correctly. Fenerbahce 1907 says, hi, Dylan. Transferred in Foden a week early. I really like this performance and looked very sharp, as well as playing 90 minutes back-to-back. He is a big game player, so not too bothered about playing Arsenal. Yeah, he had a very good record against Arsenal in his first few appearances. It has kind of died down, and long may it continue. But facing Burnley at home next week, if he can start that game, he's a very good option, actually. I wouldn't go for him over Haaland, of course, but he could be a nice complementary option in the midfield. Cal Abdullah says, my team is Sanchez, Anderson, Van Dijk, Munoz, Semenyo captain, Gakpo, Xavi Simons, Bruno, Waldemar, Mateta and Haaland. I like that team a lot. There aren't many complaints. I'm just wondering who is on your bench, but yeah, for the most part, it looks very solid. Hoping that 12:30 captain curse won't strike today. I'm a bit mixed bag about it. But yeah, I've already explained that before. From an FPL perspective, I want Salah to do well, but I'm kind of secretly hoping Liverpool do the unthinkable and drop some points finally. But I think they'll win today. It's more so in the coming weeks where I think they'll drop some points. A lot of F1 races in the past, like the Malaysian F1 circuit, more than other circuits. Yeah, I wouldn't really blame them for that. I'm not saying it's my absolute favourite, but it's up there. I think it's quite underrated overall. Mina says, hey Dylan, YouTube has this new hype feature. Yes. Do you know if I can hype live streams or only videos? I would love to show my support to the channel. I believe you can do it for both. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can do it for live streams. I got an email about it. I mentioned it in a few videos. Let's see what the hype is about. Test the hype button and click it for my videos on live streams. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you to those that have done so already. And yeah, to all the members, subscribers, everyone, because we have hit 36k today. And also big up to Paredes for gifting 5 memberships earlier in this stream. And to all the super chatters, you are massively appreciated. Someone is going to triple captain Josh Culling and he's going to score a brace against Forest. That's what I mean. I mentioned him as a random example, and he did get a big return a couple of weeks ago. F1 here before not benefiting in terms of increasing the finances. Yeah, obviously it comes down to finances at the end of the day. Some circuits like Monaco are seemingly untouchable. But yeah, there are a lot of classic circuits. Malaysia is technically not one of them, but I think it's a very underrated old school circuit. I really like it. You keep doing the Liverpool. Can you calm down? Calm down. Oh, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Yeah, and obviously, Sadio Mane is the best football player in the world. I'm being serious. Yeah. Chetri is an India football legend. Maybe, yeah. Because that's what I was thinking of, but I was thinking, okay, as good as he is, he's not better than those countries combined. Let's be nice. Yeah, Vert's bench this wildcard time. Yeah, Gameweek 6 is a good time on paper to wildcard. I'm looking at Gameweek 8 personally. My bench is Dubravka, Senesi, Rodon, and Reinders. That's a good bench. I wouldn't blame you if you activate the bench boost, but yeah, you've also got better fixtures on the horizon for a lot of those players. Rob says, I went for 2-2-1 in FPL Challenge. Alisson Becker, Virgil van Dijk, Tarkowski, Salah, Semenyo, Chris Wood. I like that. It's a good setup overall. I'm just kind of favouring this sort of thing. With Tarkowski, he could get 2 or 3 points and then double that. So you could be looking at 4 to 6 points quite comfortably. So not too shabby there. I just don't think his ceiling will be that high. Yeah, that's it. Calm down, lol. Like Harry Enfield. I haven't heard that before, though. Or at least it doesn't spring to mind. I just looked at your comment and said it. I wasn't basing off anything. Only the Sadio Mane meme. Went with Milenkovic captain this week again after the horror loss to West Ham in Gameweek 3. Let's hope he scores a bullet header with a clean sheet. Yeah, I like Milenkovic this week. He was in my provisional free hit squad, but I'm just not fully convinced about a clean sheet there against Burnley, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, it's called Sepang Circuit. Yeah, I'm aware of that. It's in the middle of the city of Malaysia. Yeah, it's a very good one. Thank you to Stepaki. Leave the football before the football leaves you. Yeah, the football's left him. Yeah, about Casemiro. That guy should sue Jimmy Carragher for defamation of character. I know Casemiro has dropped off, but yeah, that is still a very big insult, which has now become a meme. There are a lot of curves in the circuit, yes, which is good. In terms of high-speed corners, you can get a lot of overtaking, and it's not just relying on straight-line speed. Thank you to Ahmed for gifting 10 memberships. A big up to you and Paredes, so thank you very much. So to the likes of Ahmad, James, All Things Gaming, Benny Blanco, I am... Is that? Or 14M, I'll call you. Relax iGamer, Adida Day, Sun Tzu, What No Graphics, and Alamudi. Enjoy the memberships for an entire month. You will get early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. There's also going to be priority reply to comments. That's particularly useful in UCL streams, but even in FPL deadlines as well, that can come in very handy. And the same goes for the comment section of my videos. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. Obviously, I maybe can't do fully fledged sentences or whole conversations, but yeah, Scouse accent is always nice to impersonate in a way. Who is the best team to watch in the Prem? Yeah, I think Liverpool are up there, but I'd also put Bournemouth's name in the hat. I think Bournemouth are a very good team to watch. I think Arsenal on the day are good to watch, despite all the kind of rhetoric, but I wouldn't say they're the best team. That would have been in the 2022-23 season. So I think Liverpool might be the best one. They also have a lot of late goals. They don't fully control games. So you've got a lot of end-to-end games and, drama and stuff like that. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Good question. Obviously, Man City a few years ago when they were playing liquid football and at their very best, they would have been up there as well. So yeah, once again, a big shout out to Ahmad. Wait, did he just get a membership himself? That was very well deserved, mate. You gifted yourself a membership and 9 others, so big up to yourself. Thank you very much. So as Relax I Gamer says, thanks for the gifted. Latino Dialects, did you get it? I'm not trying to piss on your cornflakes, as they say, or shite on the parade, but I don't think you got one. Just saying. Ready for the memes for FPL today? Don't go anywhere. That's another one, but maybe not the best impersonation I've got. I've got Scooby-Doo in my locker. That's another one. I probably won't show my face when doing it, though, because I sometimes do some mad faces to get the voice. Yeah, let's go Ahmed. I like Newcastle to watch also. Yeah, they did have a few boring games this season, though, like the goalless draw against Leeds, but yeah, at home, they can be very exciting to watch. People who got Verts feel bad for, man. I'm annoyed he's been benched as a Liverpool fan. Good job, I got Ekitike and Salah. Yes, Ekitike could be a concern, though, in the long term, and ultimately Liverpool have 4 or 5 quality attackers, and they could just easily bench any of them except Salah, basically, over the coming weeks. Yeah, Brighton are a good team to watch. They're also unpredictable. They do spring to mind, actually. They would be in my top 5. They've also got some good players off the bench that, can make an impact. I actually predicted Gruder to score the winning goal against City when I was with my friends. Would they vouch for me? Probably not, because they want me to look like an absolute tit. But yeah, I think Brighton is a good shout. At the moment, I'd say Liverpool, yeah. Probably one of the most exciting. I think last season, I'll be honest, probably Bournemouth were up there for me. And I didn't like last season in general. I think the quality of football was a bit lower. It does seem a bit higher this season, but yeah, I just hope we get, a competitive relegation battle, also European spots and title race. But obviously Liverpool deserve to win the title anyway. You got to give them credit. United under Sir Alex. Look, you might call me biased, but I think Arsenal under Wenger was the best football in England and amongst the best in Europe. The good thing about United, a bit similar to Liverpool now, is they always score late goals. That was the exciting bit about it, even though maybe it gets boring at some stage, especially as a title rival, just seeing them score a 93rd minute winner by Van Nistelrooy. Yeah, okay, well done. What do the transfers made on the FPL website mean? If it says... Wait, I'm not sure what you mean by that, as in... Yeah, if it says transfers made, it just means how many moves you've made so far this season. So in my case, I've made 5. That includes Semenyo in for Ismaila Sarr this week. And if it says Gameweek transfers, I think that means how many you have made just for this Gameweek specifically. When I do my graphics, though, what it basically means is how many I've got available to me. And in this case, I've got 1. I'm just not rolling enough. Brighton are good to watch, but can be painful. Yes, you beat the teams you aren't expected to beat, and then you lose against absolute bots or drop points at home to a newly promoted side. F1 now in Azerbaijan. Next will be in Singapore, my neighbor country. Yeah, so it's Baku this weekend, a street circuit, and then it's Singapore. I did cover F1 Fantasy a few years ago. It was fun, and maybe one day I'll go back to it. But yeah, football, of course, is already a lot with UCL Fantasy and FPL, not to mention the Euros and the World Cup. And throughout the summer, I covered the Club World Cup as well. Signing off, Dylan, see you for your action stream. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be tonight. That's the most likely thing. Good luck, Dylan, and guys, thank you, Punjabi. The same goes to you as well. Yeah, Joseph to Benfica. And his first Champions League game is against Chelsea. Chelsea. Is that your only chant, by the way? 16.5% own Verts. Yes, and the vast majority would have started him. Arsenal are not as heavy metal right now, but they are heading there. I think there are certain games where they can turn it on, like Leeds at home. And I just think away, especially in tougher games like Bilbao away, Liverpool, they're just more conservative. But I think people are also very results biased. Before the Liverpool game, they went 2-3 years unbeaten against the top 6 in the Prem. So it was a proven strategy. Ultimately, I wanted Arsenal to go for it. There was an opportunity to beat Liverpool at Anfield, and there were some regrets after the game. But in hindsight, it was a 0-0 game, and it was decided by a moment of quality. But yeah, I would like to see Arsenal take the handbrakes off a little bit and just let the wingers and the attacking players have more freedom to express themselves. That's what Wenger always did, sometimes to his downfall. By the way, is it a bit strange that you do way more FPL content, but your UCL streams and that go huge and get so busy? Oh no, I'm not surprised by that. It's a trend I've noticed from the beginning, and that's why I always cover UCL Fantasy. It's a lot of fun as well, by the way. It's my favorite fantasy game. I do well in it historically, and a lot of people tune in. But yeah, I've also thought about this in terms of if I make more UCL Fantasy videos and do like best differentials and stuff like that. I have considered it, but of course the views for that won't be as high as a limitless squad, a wildcard team, or just covering my own squad in general. And the deadlines are always hectic, even up until the very end. Last season, we were getting, close to 10,000 people tuning in. And yeah, match day 1 is always a blast, and there's chaos, absolute chaos. Do you think Spurs are going to make it against Brighton? They certainly could. I'm not ruling out a Spurs victory, but I've gone for 2-2, and ultimately Brighton are so difficult to predict. They tend to do better against the bigger teams and the better teams in the country. Oh, there are almost 10 million transfers made. Oh, well, if it says that, then yeah, it means in terms of FPL managers in general, they've made 10 million transfers this week. Hate to say it, but if Frank gets the Spurs team to gel, they could be dangerous. Well, I think they'll finish in the top 4, or top 5, sorry, alongside Chelsea. I think the top 3 are quite clear from the rest, in my opinion. So that's Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. But yeah, I think Spurs have a great chance of finishing 5th, and Frank's done a very good job so far. I'm surprised nobody went in for Brighton's Minter in the summer. He's a great player for Brighton. He's very inconsistent, but the potential is certainly there. And he's going to play a lot more games this season with Adingra on loan at Sunderland. Amrin will stick with the back three formation. Yes, it's not the worst for big games, but he needs to adapt. That's my point from the beginning. I get that you want to stick with your principles, but I also think you've got to adapt as a manager and find different solutions. I wasn't able to hype your live stream, but I hyped your best wildcard video. Thank you very much. I think there's a limit on how much you can hype a certain content creator's video. But I do appreciate you doing it for the wildcard. And yeah, a lot of people tune in for that as well. So thank you. And he just signed a new 4-year contract. Not Amarim, no. Vitor Pereira did sign a 3-year contract. I think Amarim jokingly said that he was offered a contract. He hasn't signed anything. And I don't think they will do that. It's more closer to the sack than a new contract. I'll be using the wildcard in match day 2 of UCL Fantasy. I'll probably do that as well, Rob. But the Limitless is also very underrated with a lot of big teams having appealing fixtures. So that's something I'll discuss in the coming weeks. But expect UCL Fantasy content in over a week's time as we approach the deadline. For now, the focus will be on FPL. But obviously UCL Fantasy is going to be the bulk of the growth and support on the channel. Thank you, Kevy. Keep up the great work. UCL Madhouse here. Yes, that will definitely be very entertaining and exciting. Match day 2, a lot of wildcards and limitlesses will be flying around, so I expect a lot of people to tune in as well, and I'll do my very best to keep everyone updated. But as I always say, I try to prevent copying, and only patrons and members will see my team from the get-go. But even with them, I encourage you to go for your own path, because I could have done better in match day 1. I was a bit disappointed with my performances, and you don't want to limit yourself to what someone else is doing. I think the kind of purpose of this is to get information, entertainment, and bounce ideas off each other and become better managers in the process and increase our chances of getting luck. That's what it comes down to. Good luck as well, Brown Coffee Live. Predictions on the United-Chelsea game. Well, I went for 1-1 in my scoreline prediction, which is a bit of an unpopular one. I'll show it one more time, and if you do rewind, you'll see all the graphics again. But that is the set of predictions for Gameweek 5 for me. By the way, it's nearly 12 PM in the UK, and I've gone live for almost 3 hours, so I'm going to wrap up fairly soon. Went from Murillo to Munoz last minute before the deadline. Not sure if I did the right thing. I think long term you have done. Munoz does face Liverpool next week, but he is fixture proof. Which game week are you going to free hit? It's not locked in, but I'm considering Game Week 11 actually. I've used fpl.team and visualized future game weeks and seeing how my team would look like, and also what a potential free hit would also be. And I think Game Week 11 does stand out, but it's not set in stone. No, I've never said... okay, so this is about the Amarim point, isn't it? The thing is with Wenger, though, he was on a par with Ferguson up until 2005 and 6. He had the success to back him up, so I think that's a bit of a difficult one. Ultimately, you're right, he didn't adapt in the later years, but he still had certain matches where he was more conservative. And let's not forget, he was a 4-4-2 manager under the kind of glory years of Arsenal, and then he shifted to a 4-3-3. So you know, with Amram, it's different. He's literally playing the same formation all the time, and he's got 31 points from 31 Premier League games. You know, Wenger was hounded out for much more. You know, Wenger had a record number of FA Cups, 7. He won many Community Shields. He won 3 Premier League titles, one of them unbeaten. I don't think you can compare Wenger and Amram, because as much as Wenger maybe was a bit stubborn, he still adapted from time to time. Let's not forget the Champions League run, which ultimately didn't result in the trophy, but I think Arsenal deserved that 2006 one. You know, Wenger played a completely different style, very defensive football in Europe, and Arsenal almost went all the way. Awesome, looking forward to the UCL content. FPL is king. I mean, I feel a bit differently. UCL for me is the kind of go-to, FPL is second, but obviously you might be saying, what about your bloody anime? Well, I mean, FPL is more popular in general, but there we go. Twister Parky says Bournemouth 2, Newcastle 1, maybe 1-0. Sunderland 1, Villa 1, Arsenal 2, City 1, maybe 3-1. I've had similar predictions to you. I also considered 1-0 Bournemouth and 1-0 Arsenal, but yeah. I think what puts me off like a high-scoring Arsenal win is Donnarumma, actually. He's a big game changer there. Imagine FPL has their own version of the World Cup. The best of the best represent the country. I hope they don't do that. It's not a bad idea, but yeah, we've already got the World Cup there. I choose Cucurella instead of Jack Grealish. I would have done the same thing, I believe. Even though I back United to score, I think that's probably the way to go in general. Best app website for live FPL rank, EO. Well, what you can also do for livefpl.net, and let's not forget there's a lot of traffic there, so sometimes the site crashes. You can, for the website link, after it says www, and then when it says dot, just before that put a 2. So www.2.livefpl.net, and that will help you bypass any crashes you may experience with the website. I think that's still the best one when it comes to tracking your progress. Thanks, Dylan, for all your hard work. Gabrone, thank you very much, Barbary. I thought my 79 points in UCL Fantasy was big. Oh yeah, there are a lot of high scores flying around, 90, 100, 110 in some cases, but look, it's early days. I got 121 points, I believe, last season, and I had my second worst rank in UCL Fantasy, which was still high, but yeah, I'm always aiming for the upper echelons of that game, considering my record there. Twisted Parky says, I got so unlucky in UCL Fantasy. Was that Pavlidis was average, then switched to Hakimi, assist taken away, then Suarez gives away the penalty. Yeah, I had Trincao, but only took him out to get Suarez. Yeah, that swing from Trincao to Pedro Gonçalves is brutal, and I ultimately think Pedro Gonçalves was the better pick. And if you look at the last couple of games for Sporting, Trincao was getting no goals or assists. He even had some poor performances in there. And I think that sort of injury concern going into match day 1 played a big part in Gonçalves being subbed off early. And yeah, Luis Suarez, you know, not going for Pavlidis, for example, instead of him, Harry Kane instead of Haaland. Quenda was a mistake of mine. I did say this. I should have gone for a Sporting defender. They conceded, but Quenda was the ultimate matchday 1 punt. And if I had a few more seconds, I would have gone for him over Otamendi. So I hold my hands up there. But I think with the other ones, it's just massive swings and a bit of bad luck there. Kalinoglu instead of Barcola, lose out on 5 points. So it could have easily been 100 plus for me. But yeah, with one of them, it's certainly my mistake. I should have gone for Quenda. And matchday 2, I will bounce back and rise up the rankings. So I'm not too concerned there. What's your mood will be in the reaction stream? Well, it depends on the FPL points, I guess, but I try not to let it affect me too much. And last season, I did a lot of reaction streams on Saturday where things were terrible. I was literally getting red arrows. I was trying to smile through the pain. And then I did well on Sunday in many cases, and then got a green arrow in those game weeks, which was the website for game week team planning, fpl.team. So I've just put it there. And there's also livefpl.net. Both of them can be used to plan future game weeks. And you can also see price changes in the case of livefpl.net and also your live rank. I had Mbappe, didn't captain. He didn't do much, but typically got 2 pence to save his game. So yeah, I talked about all the bad luck I had. That was the lucky one I got. Mbappe getting 2 penalties. I think one of them was dubious. So yeah, that was my kind of lucky bit. And the reason why it wasn't a terrible match day for me. But yeah, I'm still a bit disappointed. Most of my players returned, except for... Who was the ones that didn't return? Yeah, Pedro Gonçalves and Luis Suarez. Everyone else got something, but Barcola, it really should have been a big return. He missed a big chance, missed a penalty, and that easily could have been a double-digit haul there. Yeah, watch along today during the game. I won't have any stocks in Fulham or Brentford though, so that game won't actually affect me, so I can just enjoy the match and answer questions in the process. That is the plan right now, to do a reaction stream tonight. I'll keep you posted. Otherwise, it will be tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, like this stream, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for UCL Fantasy and FPL. And a big shout out to all the members, patrons, subscribers, and super chatters. We hit 36k today, and also 35,000 only last week, so the growth has been incredible, mainly thanks to UCL Fantasy, but of course the last push was made today. I'll see you very soon for that reaction stream this weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for Matchday 2 content. That will be closer to the deadline on the 30th of September in 10 days' time. In the meantime, of course, I'll be focusing on Game Week 6 in FPL, and we'll see how we do, of course, in this current match day. Take care, enjoy the football. It's always a blast talking to you. If you have any other messages or comments, let me know in the live chat. So I'm going to go all the way up to Rob, who says, thanks, mate. I do appreciate it. After that, of course, yeah, we're going to just keep things moving. I did pretty well in UCL Fantasy, but I'm kicking myself for swapping out Trincao for Xavi Simons. That was another mistake of mine, going for Xavi Simons. I hold my hands up there. And yeah, Trincao was a real consideration for me, going for him and Pedro Gonçalves simultaneously. So there were a few regrets from match day 1 for me. I'm not sure exactly what Salah's EO is going to be. Well, likely over 100. He should be the most captain player, but yeah, I can't give you the exact percentages. Maybe I'll talk about this in the reaction stream tonight or tomorrow. United versus Chelsea or Fulham, Brentford watch-along. It will most likely be after the Chelsea game, because most people will be just watching that match and not wanting to see a watch-along. But yeah, I think maybe during the Fulham-Brentford game is most likely. I benched Adeyemi for Lookman and Aklioch. Yeah, Aklioch was a big disappointment. Another one who missed a penalty. And Adeyemi, well, if you got Adeyemi, this is what I always say with UCL Fantasy. You start the players who play first, and then you sub them out for players who are yet to play, and that maximizes your chance of getting points. The same goes for the captaincy. You captain someone on the Tuesday, and if it doesn't go according to plan, then you can captain a Wednesday player and then a Thursday. So it's all covered in my How to Play UCL Fantasy guide and the chip strategy video as well. Mbappe is the only reason I am bottom of the independent league. Yeah, Mbappe. He's the one to thank for me, but it was a very lucky brace there. My current rank in your FPL league is 69. Enjoy it, but try to push for more. Thank you, Dylan. Good luck to you, bro. Likewise. Diouf or Tarkowski to start, Dylan? Well, the deadline has passed, mate. If this is FPL Challenge or a different sort of game, I'm not a big fan of either. Tarkowski can get DEFCON, so if he is FPL, then he isn't too shabby. I lean towards Diouf at this moment in time. Wildcarding now, my third in 2 a week. Yeah, wow, interesting. Very interesting indeed. So I'm guessing you also wildcarded in UCL Fantasy. Already done Verts to Semenyo. I suggested it going into Game Week 5, but I was thinking maybe Verts could do well this week. But yeah, we have seen, of course, he isn't starting. Good luck as well, Fenerbahce, with the Game Week. Just don't like watching him. He drops so deep all the time, but he is awesome. That's Kane. Yeah, he's not the most exciting player to watch, but he's very efficient. He's, well, not arguably, he's undoubtedly one of the best strikers in world football. In terms of most complete, he's probably the best one, but I think Haaland is the best goal scorer overall. A lot of players will not have Fulham and Brentford, maybe better United, Chelsea. But like I said, Easy, a lot of people are watching that game, and more people were tuning after the match is finished, if you kind of catch my drift. Yes, I'll try to rest my voice. Body, not really. I'm not moving about. I'm just in my chair right now. But yeah, I might take a little nap. I'm not going to lie, to get even more sleep. I did have a late one yesterday, as usual. My current league is too crap to mention. Oh, the rank. Yes. Yeah, but it's early days. I haven't even seen my UCL Fantasy one, but I imagine it's a few 100,000 in the world rankings. Yeah, as covered before, Edwin, Verts isn't starting. Neither is Frimpong. And Liverpool have gone for a midfield three of Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and McAllister, with Bradley as the right back. What do you think of the rumours that Barca want Kane? Well, it would make sense with Lewandowski. Yeah, I think he's going to leave at the end of this season. That's the reports I saw. But Harry Kane will stay at Bayern Munich. I'm very sure about that. And I think Barca will likely go for Julian Alvarez in the next year or two. Thank you, everyone. It's been a blast for the last couple of hours, almost 3 hours. I'm kind of tempted to stick it out for 1 more minute. Does that seem weird? Maybe it does. Maybe it bloody does. Just one last look at FPL Challenge then. What an absolute idiot I am. But yeah, I will rest after this and then set things up for the reaction stream, which will likely take place tonight. Keep your eyes peeled for it. It will happen during or just before the Brentford Fulham game takes place. I have both of them, says Edwin. Yeah, sorry to say that, mate. They have both been massive disappointments this season. Florian Wirtz more so. Obviously, with Frimpong, he got injured. I started the season with him. That was a mistake in hindsight. Yeah, do one more minute. That's what I'm basically doing. I'm not even sure why, but there you go. As a Barca fan myself, I want a long-term option. The thing is, though, Kane can still give you 5 years of consistent brilliance. He really could. And he could drop deep, link up the play for Yamal and Rafinha and all the other wingers. I think Kane would be brilliant in Barcelona. And to be honest, he'd be brilliant in any football club. But he's going to stay at Bayern Munich, in my opinion. I'd be very surprised if he moved to Barcelona. Haaland versus Mbappe in La Liga. Maybe one day. Haaland is constantly linked with Barcelona. I don't see him going to Madrid with Mbappe there, but we also said this about Mbappe himself with Vinicius and all these other players. And, of course, Madrid always try to buy the best in class, even for free. No Undying challenge just in case. Not really. I've got him in my normal team anyway. I try to cover different players that I don't have in my normal FPL squad, like Jean-Philippe Mateta. I only went 2-0, so probably not, I guess. Yeah, same here. I've gone for 2-0 Liverpool. I've just started Undying just in case. And wow, thank you, Ahmed, for gifting 20 memberships. You are insane, mate. You also gifted 5 earlier. A great way to end this stream. Obviously, we hit 36,000 subscribers earlier as well. Not sure about wildcard or free hit in Gameweek 2 and UCL Fantasy. I get that. It is the Limitless, of course, not free hit, but very similar in principle. You just have no budget restrictions. I think the Limitless is really appealing in Matchday 2. And if you check out my chip strategy guide, you'll see why I like the wildcard 2 strategy, because you can basically build a great team on paper for every single game week, and then Limitless in Matchday 5 when a lot of your teams, or the big teams and your assets, will have difficult fixtures. Do you think Kane looks better away from Spurs? Well, in Spurs, and sometimes they were poor Tottenham teams, he was still doing really well, which is arguably more impressive, but he's probably a more complete player now. He's scoring more goals, albeit in a weaker league, but he's doing it in the Champions League as well. He's already matched his Champions League record for Tottenham at Bayern Munich, and he's only been there for 3 seasons now. So to the likes of Patra, Edwin, Nikos, Zaki, FPL Kwanzaa, Shannon Lotz, D. Rowdy, Miguel MJ, Ajay, Stefan, East End Cop, Arjner, Terry McLarney, Magnus Graberg, Herman Hawari, the McManamus Gaming, I'm going to call you, Fakri, Amir Itani, Les Coop, and Adeline enjoyed memberships for an entire month. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that extra minute. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is now, but you didn't have to, mate. I think those memberships do cost a lot, so I very much appreciate it. And yeah, all your contributions to the channel are greatly appreciated. The same goes to Paredes and Napstars, all legends of the channel. Barca can't afford Haaland at the moment. Yes, they definitely can't right now. No, not in 3 hours, no. If I do a reaction stream, it will likely be in 7-8 hours time. So at 7-8 p.m. UK time after the Chelsea-Man United match. Isak could have cooked at Barca. Barca can't be that broke to not afford Isak. Yeah, I agree. The thing is, though, with Alexander Isak, he is very injury prone. That's my only concern about him. But Liverpool have made a great signing there. He's going to make an impact and maybe be a potential title decider. I can't even speak right now. Did he have a party when Kane left Spurs? Not a party, but I was kind of thankful because I'm just saying the correlation of Tottenham getting penalties against Arsenal has gone down massively since he left. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for the membership, Ahmed, bro. Yes, big up to Ahmed. D. Rowdy also says that. Thank you. Ooh, I got a gifted. And Edwin says, thanks for the gifted sub. So yeah, a W gifted by Ahmed. Thank you, Pratik, as well. Thank you, Dylan. You're my favorite streamer for FPL, even for your post-deadline rants. Yes, I mainly rant on Twitter, to be fair, and then I try to be calmer in the streams, but it's not always the case. And if you want to see me rage, check out my Uncharted Raging video, which is on the channel. Plot twist, Kane wins Champions League with Bayern, then returns to Spurs to beat Alan Shearer's goal-scoring record. Nah. I hope neither happened, to be honest. That is absolute hater material. I get it, but yeah. He's got a chance of winning the Champions League. And if he does return to Tottenham, he'll probably break the Shearer record. But guess what, mate? There's a certain Erling Haaland, Norwegian robot, who can probably break that in 5 years' time if he stays that long at City, which I think he will. I haven't played that, Magnus. I haven't. I've played FPL, UCL Fantasy, F1, the Club World Cup, the World Cup, Euros, Sky Sports Fantasy back in the day. I think that covers it. Did not moderate as much today. because of wildcard stress. No worries about that. I think the likes of Awale, for example, did great work there anyway. Also, next deadline on holiday, so might not be able to do much. Yeah, no worries there. And after the Game Week 7 reaction stream, that is the plan, or Game Week 8 reaction stream it would be by then, I'm going on a holiday myself, so there will be like a week break of content. Tonto in Spanish means silly, so maybe I am silly. But yeah, I will take like a week break off content for the first time in years. So yeah, I'm going to enjoy that sort of international break. And then once I'm back, it'll be full on with FPL and UCL Fantasy. But yeah, that'll be in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, no worries to Sapaki. Enjoy your holiday. And I appreciate all the work you do. Awesome Pratik came to Arsenal to break the record. I saw him linked to Arsenal in the last season or two, and I don't really get it. He's never going Arsenal. He might have been an Arsenal fan once upon a time. That is well past it now. Football Fandom says Shada, Foster, Foden, my differentials this week. Keep in mind, I said Shada, Constantine, Henderson last week. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out then for those players. Hopefully not Foden. I hope he blanks. But with the other two, that could be really decent shouts, especially Shada against Fulham. I'm backing a high-scoring game, and I could be going live during it. Who's your favourite ex-Spurs player ever to join Arsenal? Sol Campbell. I mean, that's the easy, obvious answer. One of the best centre-backs in Premier League history. I'm staying, you know, winning the double at Arsenal, winning the league at White Hart Lane. He did it, but in an Arsenal shirt. Just saying. People wildcarding already. Well, yes, and in UCL Fantasy, in Matchday 2, that'll be very popular, but I'll talk about that in the UCL Fantasy content as well. So thank you, everyone. It has been a blast talking to you for the past couple of hours. Drop a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Click the hype button on my YouTube videos and live streams. Let's see what the hype is about. And also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content for FPL and UCL Fantasy. I think tonight I'll do a reaction stream. I'll keep you posted on it. If not, it'll be tomorrow. And there'll be plenty more where that came from when it comes to Game Week 6 content with the transfer tips, best wildcard team, and my team selection. Take care, enjoy the football, and I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UCL Fantasy videos.